Ooh.
Looks like we're live.
Okay, I didn't see it. Hey. Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Jasmine Says It All. On this episode, we're going to be talking about failure. Failure is not an option and the mindset behind healing. I know a lot of times when we think about failure, we always connect it to something extremely bad. But if you turn that negative into something positive, I'm quite sure you can come out on top. Um, I know for me, whenever I think about failure, it's this one quote. It's this one quote that comes to mind, and I'm always saying nothing beats a failure but a try. Hold on 1 second. Daru, take over for 1 second.
All right, cool. I like what Jasmine said, but for me, it's a little different. And I speak on it from total experience. My belief is this: like, you grow through what you go through. I believe that you gotta learn how to embrace the darkness, which can be like the pain, the depression, and things of that nature, in order for you to be able to totally um, accept and comprehend, the grace of the light. And that's been one of my models. I say, especially probably like the previous 8 years, because 4 of the years I was like sick. I ended up coming down with I ain't gonna call it a rare condition, but I ended up being diagnosed with like sarcoidosis, right? So for 2 years, they treated me for pulmonary sarcoidosis. And like, I'm a big dude. So I'm 6'1", I'm 219 pounds. And like, I've been big my whole life. And my motto was always like, they'll never say like they caught the fat dude, right? So I've been like an avid runner my whole life. And it was like, when I got sick, like my whole dynamic of life had to change, because like, excuse the verbiage, but like my motto used to be this: like, I run shit, I call shots, and I make shit happen. And that was my motto, because if you can make it happen, then you can run the shots. You know what I mean? And even before I was into like the manifestation and all of that, like everybody used to ask me like, bro, how do you do this? How do you do that? And then my motto used to always be like, man, G, go fail at it. Hey, what? Dude, go fail at it, because now when you fail, you got more experience than anybody else. What you don't learn no better way than through failure and through pain. You know what I mean? Especially if your expectations or whatever this situation is high. You know what I mean? You want to get this done and you totally fail. So now you already winning it because you didn't took the notes because you expected to succeed. But now you didn't fail. Now your notes then increased and double. And not only that, now you can go in there with, I'm gonna say, almost a mastermind, because the previous experiences that you have from failing. So that's always been my dynamic. And back to my story, after I came over the sickness, I ended up getting a new heart, liver, and kidney, right? And it was like the most traumatic time for me was my first year. You know what I mean? Because your immune system have to like basically rebuild itself. And then not only that, but although this heart in my body keep me alive, if I stop taking an anti-rejection and I actually get too healthy, my DNA and my white blood cells gonna actually kill this heart. Even though it's like, yo, like we on the same team, but going through that process, like it scared the mess out of me, because I can remember vividly one time, like it was around Halloween, and it was my first year out the hospital. I got out the hospital in January, and it had almost hit a year, and I remember this so well because my son was going to daycare, and they told me I couldn't ride the bus because there wasn't no more space to go with them to the pumpkin patch. And I remember the day before I had picked him up, and he had like a slight runny nose. And I remember he sneezed on me, and I literally heard in my head like, Sean, he got a cold, take him to his mom. And I'm like, that's my baby. But it was like my intuition voice, you know what I mean? And sure enough, the next day, like I pulled up to his school, and I was sitting out there, I was waiting. I seen them load the kids on the bus, and I was going to trail the bus. And then suddenly I had the shivers. I'm like, damn, something wrong. So I just hopped on the expressway. I was on the west side of Chicago, and my whole team is at the University of Chicago in Hyde Park. And I just remember like taking off, rushing myself to the hospital. And I just remember bailing out my car in front of the hospital. I don't remember absolutely anything after that. And it was like I woke up a day and a half in the hospital. And they was telling me like all of this stuff that I was saying, and I don't remember none of that. So it's like it like scared me into this bubble. You know what I mean? Like I had to start reprogramming my mind. Like, hey, Sean, excuse the verbiage, like, bro, you gotta calm your ass down. Like, you can't do the stuff you used to do. So it's like I had to break my own brain to like calm down, and that was like so painful and so hurtful for me because it's like, man, I'm 30 plus years old. I'm a black man. I'm already like pride stricken because with the surgery, I had to move back in my mama's house because you got to have somebody with you for the first year because your immune system not properly healthy, and situations like that can occur. You can just out of nowhere, like an infection, a slight cold. My son sneezing on me, bringing something home from daycare, like sent me to the hospital for 2 weeks, you know. So it's like I had to really break myself. And then now, you know, I'm at my 4-year mark and I'm at the point where like I can do everything that I want to do, even though like I did previously travel out the country. But to be honest, y'all, when I say I couldn't hold conversations when I was outside the country because I was too busy praying in my head. Like I went to Cancun, and first I was thinking like, as long as they could give me some antibiotics, I'd be okay. You know what I mean? But when we went on that fishing trip and I seen them buildings get this big, I was like, holy fucking I don't know what I'm gonna do, you know. And again, you know, it caused me to break myself. But like I said, now I'm at this 4-year mark, and I feel like now I'm at the point where I can finally step out of that bubble that I was in. Like I've been regaining, you know, my confidence, and it goes back into, you know, what we was talking about right before the show came on. With me like breaking myself, breaking my ambition and causing myself to calm down with this new business endeavor that I was on. Like, man, I didn't sit on it so long when I could have been up and running, you know, and today I was just put in a position where I was like, oh, I can ask people. And when they expose me to the information, I'm just like, yo, it was actually this easy to transition property into my business name, to register this and to register that. And then it just made me think like, man, Rue, like, it's cool. We redoing this and we back at the stage where like we gonna grow through what we go through. You know what I mean? We done been through enough already. So now we can begin the process of re-elevation. And like that's why I just get the whole dynamic of that sense from, you know, I'm gonna grow through everything that I go through. What's wrong, Ken?
So I'm listening to you when you had said that go through what you go through. I know initially
grow through.
That's what I said. Grow through what you go through. Yeah. So initially, like what I've been doing the last couple of shows is whatever topic or whatever word sticks out, I use the dictionary term because it's just my luck every time I get on the podcast and I say what I think the word means to me based off my own personal life experience. Here they come bringing out this sad chick, Miriam. Here they come with Miriam, and now I got to listen to whatever it is she's saying, right? So when I looked up the definition, because I just wanted to be quite frank, it says that failure is the lack of success, right? And when I thought about success, and I know I say this all the time whenever I'm speaking, no matter where I'm at, everything in life is subjective, and it depends on what whatever success looks like to that person. So what success looked like to me may not be the same thing for you, Daru, or it may not be the same thing for the wife school or for Reckless Ray or for Worthy Expectations. So when I think about failure, and I had seen this, like I know I had this morning routine. In the morning, I try to get on YouTube and I watch these motivational stuff like videos like Eric Thomas. I forgot the guy who was in the Marines, him. I listen to like the TD Jakes, and I try not to get the ones that it's only just one person, but the ones that's kind of like mashed up real quick with like 10 minutes. So you can, it kind of, I guess, do what the social media wants you to do. Try to keep you from being focused on one thing. So what they do is they try to switch everything up. You're like, oh, this caught my attention. I can focus on this. And you hear like the high pitch, the different voices and stuff like that. So it kind of keeps me intrigued. And on one of the videos, of course, they got the people working out in the background. And then you hear these actors and influencers speaking. And I had heard Will Smith talking, and he was talking about how Will Smith was talking about failure. And he was like, you want to fail often, fail forward. And I guess that's the way you can be successful in life. So a lot of times when we think about failing, we often relate that to something negative when it really doesn't have to be negative. I think things are only negative when you make them negative.
I would have to say failure is not permanent unless you accept it as permanent.
Right.
So what we were talking about as far as success, what is success? It's the ongoing realization of a worthy ideal. It's when you set your mind to something and you continue to move in the direction. You have to try different things. So you're going to fail. Failure is success, because the people who do not succeed in this world are the ones that are afraid of failure, who will not take the chance, who cannot stomach rejection. So when you step out of your comfort zone and you start taking actions, whatever the consequences are, look for the learning lesson in the consequences, in the result. Mm-hmm. But failure is not failure unless you accept it as the final end.
I like that. So look, Worthy Expectations, that's his name on here, but this is my Uncle Mike. And I remember when then I didn't appreciate it. And I think I was telling him this when I had my grand opening last summer and he came to my spot for my grand opening. When I was a kid, Mike used to have us listening to these motivational speakers. The first one I remember was Bob Proctor, right? And then we wasn't listening to CDs, we was listening to tapes that you gotta let it once it's over with, you gotta rewind it and then flip it over and all of that. Yeah. So he used to make us listen to that. Me and my two cousins make us listen to that while we would sleep, so that I guess we can program our subconscious mind to think differently, right? But it was like then I did not appreciate it. I was like, why do he got us listening to this shit? But the older, like seriously, the older I became and the more aware I became, the more aware of myself I became, it's like, man, like I really needed that. And I really appreciate you for like instilling those things in me at such a young age. And now I'm like, when I'm around my baby, I try to have her listen to that on our way to school. We listen to I love videos or whatever. So yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I feel like I had what I call a proud dad moment with a situation like that. We was, I think I was telling you this other day, Jasmine. We was riding, listening to Think and Grow Rich. So like my son, he hear all my stuff because I also do like the motivational speaking on Instagram too. And so my son, I always hear like you grow through what you go through, et cetera, et cetera. So in the book Think and Grow Rich, he say like the 30 most common reasons most people fail, right? So as soon as he say that, my son, he in the backseat, he say, it ain't no such thing as failure. So I paused it. I'm like, what you mean? He was like, yeah, you never lose. You always learn. I'm like, where you get that from? He was like, I be listening to your motivational speeches. You always take a lesson from something. So if you fail, when you do it again, you know how to do it next time better. I was like, yeah, I just gave him some doubt. But then I turned my head and I was damn near in tears. Like, God damn, he listening. He getting the message. He only 8 years old and he getting the message. I was just like, one up for me. So yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing.
You know what? It's easier to teach a young person something than it is to teach an old person. Because we're already filled with ideas and thoughts and beliefs in our own mind. And in order to take on new ideas, you have to have an open mind. Yeah, and you have to be willing to let go of the things that you believe to be true, or the things that you believe that this is how it is, in order to objectively listen to a new idea. So when you expose the youngsters, all they have to do is learn. When you expose an adult, you have to actually change their mind, which is a lot harder than learning through exposure and repetition. And Jaru, Bob Proctor, Think and Grow Rich, man, I've got tapes, the videos, the books. I mean, he taught people about the mind, how the mind works. And I think that we could all sit here and talk on this podcast and give different points of view. And there's something that we're all going to pick up from another person, a little bit here, a little bit there. But when you listen to a guy like Bob Proctor, he's going to teach you something And once you learn it, you can't claim ignorance to it. Once you get an understanding of, oh, this is really how it works, that's when you start to take responsibility for yourself and not blame anything or anybody or any situation for where you're at in life. You start to realize that if there's a problem, if I'm in a situation or experiencing something or a result that I don't want, I don't have to accept it. I need to try something new. I need to get other education. I need to be influenced by people who are wiser than me. So that's why I really like this podcast. I've only been watching Jasmine for maybe a month. I've watched 4 or 5, maybe 6 times. And at first, I was skeptical. But then as you listen to everybody's point of view, you realize that we're all different people. We've all had, nobody has walked in our steps, our exact steps in life. Everybody has their own story. Everybody is programmed through conditioning, through life, based on everything we've experienced to this point, right now where we're at. Allows us to even speak what we're speaking on. So a podcast that's informative, you got to look for the lessons even between each other, between us ourselves. We got to listen. What is he saying that I don't know? And nobody knows it all. If you think you know it all, you need to live a couple million years before you know it all.
I have a.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was like, I'm gonna probably be the positively dark contrarian here. Like, I am, dude. Like, I'm a competitor. I like winning. I had to reprogram myself as we talked to programming. I had to rebuild myself from scratch because I put myself in a space where I was just basically functioning like an animal in society, and that obviously doesn't work. And I had to retool and repurpose myself from that state to get to where I'm at now. The one thing that I heard that came up was there were 2 really good points that I heard that I wanted to touch on. The one that Jasmine said, where she said success is subjective. It's subjective, but within the context of a society, societies are built with hierarchies. So success technically is not subjective within a society because the society decides what the hierarchies are. So if we were all cave people, if I was had the physical prowess to go take whatever I wanted, then I am successful in that society. Now, as we know, in the society that we live in now, that's illegal. So that wouldn't be a metric of success. But we still judge men based on it because we have more DNA of the successful guy is the guy that can take what he wants than we do of the successful guy just has money. So like success, like I always look at it from the context of success for men. It's like you've got to bridge that gap. You wouldn't really find too much use as a man for a man who is base level weak amongst men who've been serving in the military. Like, I have a lot of friends who've served in the military. I prefer to spend most of my time with active combatants in the military. That's just the people that I like to surround myself with, because in the back of my head, if something goes bad because of the upbringing that I had, I'm like, I need to know that you're useful if you're going to be around me. Otherwise, you're a liability, and now I got to take care of you and everybody else. And it's not us watching each other's back. So that was the one thing, and my only pushback on that is within a societal context, because the game that we play, and like I say it's a game because it is a game, especially in a first world country, because failure here does not equate to death. So like we have obese homeless people. So for us, we are playing within a societal game. And the inability for people, but we're also groomed to fear failing. If you think about it, when you're in school, the kid who asks questions, what everybody say, oh, that's the stupid kid. That kid's dumb. We negatively reinforce asking questions within that schooling system because the schooling systems that we have here were made to churn out workers, unquestioning drones. They're trying to make a cog. So The kid who asks a bunch of questions is actually the kid who can solve a bunch of problems.
Mm-hmm.
But we tell that kid, you're stupid. You're dumb. Like, you shouldn't ask those questions, kid. Like, how did you not know that? And we'll attack and we'll shave those edges off until they fit that square peg into that round hole by shaving the edges off. And then what we produce are people who are not able to deal in gray area topics or gray area subjects. It's the same reason you have these people out, these guys who join in that'll get into the manosphere and they can only regurgitate a talking point. They've never read the book. They can only parrot what's been told to them, and they get real mad about it because they don't have the context, so they can't actually speak to any nuance that deviates from, oh, you've done this, this, and this. Well, you're this. Because we go through systems where we go, hey, if you ask a lot of questions, you're this. Hey, if you have this upbringing, you're this. We want to put people into boxes and then want to be mad when people don't fit in those boxes. And so you get like a lot of pushback for that. And much to what everybody else has said, we'll definitely agree on, the more capable you are of failing and adapting and overcoming said failure, the more successful you will be in life. But we also don't teach that either, because like if you're trying to make a bunch of cogs, the one thing that they'll come at you with is, oh, you're going to fail. Oh, can you make it without this check? Are you going to be able to figure it out? Because we are not raised by default to be able to figure it out. Which puts you in a position to where when most people talk about how they hate their jobs, I've never hated a job because I've never gone into a contract for a job without a plan. I've never gone into a position looking for someone to take care of me. Period. I'm like, this is a means to an end that I decide. You don't decide. The only thing you can do is tell me I can't come here. But those monetary threats, that type of stuff, it's because we are built with such a fear of failure that the simple sentence, well, what is your family going to think about this? Can lock somebody into a position to where they go to work every day just completely soul destroyed, doing a monotonous task that they're probably better than, that they've allowed those people to gaslight them into being a slave in that building.
Before I say something, did you want to say something on wife school?
Thank you, Reckless.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Miss Jasmine. Well, I had, I don't know what kind of life I had. What helped me embrace failure is that I had an outside influence, like how you talked about your uncle playing those tapes. I actually had my dad speaking into my life all the time. You have an enterprise within you. You are going to be a valedictorian. You're this, you're that, you're great, you know, even if maybe I probably wasn't, but I still felt those words. Maybe I didn't know how to embody them all the time, but when I seen that I was, getting bad grades, I was like, oh, my dad, he's going to see this and I don't want to disappoint him. So it was always like, I have to pick myself up because of the thing that was, put into my my head and my spirit. And so I was like, okay, cool. So he did tell me, he would say, you're going to be the valedictorian, you're going to be top class. And when I graduated middle school, like they was like, hey, we want to recommend Stephanie as valedictorian. I was like, hey, I heard this before. So it was kind of like his manifestations on my life. So that's when I, kind of heard of those, like trying to change your mindset to, actually see the results in your life. And I failed a lot, in life. Sometimes you see other people doing things that you want to do. There's some things that you haven't done. And, as a grown adult or, you're like, man, well, that sucks. I wish I could have done that. Or how can I do this? And, maybe I made excuses and, didn't act on them. So I always felt like maybe I wasn't worthy or whatever I didn't do. So when it got to a point of like, I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of feeling like this. I don't want to be a victim. I had to switch to investing in better influences and results that I wanted to see. So I had to get out of the mindset of like, okay, say if Bob Proctor was alive today and he had a mastermind on how to create wealth and the tickets cost $1,500. So what am I going to do? But I know that this is the man that can help me get there. Am I going to invest in this person? Am I going, am I going to take the chance to do it? So that's what I started doing. I started really investing and putting my money into knowledge, into information, into people that have failed so many times that would help me streamline to get to the results I want. So I paid for their failures. I paid for their experiences to learn from their failures to get my results. And so I think that's been beneficial with me with failing, because it gave me the mindset that most things can be achieved. I may not achieve it on the level of like maybe a Jay-Z, but at least, like you said, my success is subjected to me. So I feel good in the progress that I've made, because I was in one situation. Now I was able to translate it into something else. My son, Mr. Reckless Ray, he asks me so many questions. And I'm like, oh my God, bro, will you just be quiet sometimes? But that's his mind. He's an engineer. He likes solutions. He likes looking at something. He knows the ins, he knows the outs more than I would know. I don't know how his mind works. So I had to learn not to bash that, not to like, if just because I didn't understand does not give me the right to take that away from him, not to take that creativity from him. Actually, I need to give him the tools so that he can grow with that. It's like, even if he's not doing the right thing, even if he asks for a part and he breaks it, he still had to experience it, fail it, and say, well, maybe I just twisted this way and the wrong way, and he'll try to fix that solution. And so, like, I even see it in my kids, and even in the school system. It's like it's such a borderline that their environment can make or break or propel their success, beyond failure. And some people, they just because it's not their children or their child, they don't really have that vested interest in seeing people succeed. So it's my job to build him up before he goes out in this world that will try to take it away from me, you, this world. Just, they don't care, they're just stump on you, and they don't care, because they're trying to establish their own success. So they don't really care about your failures or whatever. I have to keep that uplifted in him and keep him pushing himself and his boundaries and acknowledge his strengths. And even if he does fail, I will say, well, okay, well, how can we make it right? How can we make it better? I've never seen anything so beautiful. Like my son, he can make he'll go on YouTube and he'll just spend weeks on weeks and hours watching subwoofers. I don't know why he has a vested interest in how the inner workings of a speaker works. He knows about the coil and the sound, this and that, how this vibrates, and how he can maximize the gigahertz. Like, he's only 9. Okay. He's only 9. And so I'm like, this is awesome. And he'll replicate it in the form of cardboard. He'll take it, he'll cut it, he just forms it out of his imagination. I just think that is so cool. And we need to encourage that. Like, okay, go ahead, fail again, make like 10,000 prototypes till you get the right one. You know what I'm saying? So like Ford, like how many times did he do things over until he got to where he was, and, establish a legacy for his family and success for generations to come. So yeah, I just think that the failure is such a beautiful part of success, because success is not overnight. Success is not fast. Maybe if you're lucky, but success is those opportunities. What I forgot what it was. It was like opportunities meet at the right moment is that success. So all that, emotion that you're doing and feeling and redoing and rethinking, repurposing. And it's like Ray said, like when I finally get to the point where it's like, boom, this is it. This is my moment. I can maximize on it. So failure is definitely so important of the process.
I wanted to touch on the way people conduct themselves outside of the home and how you have to build them up. That's awesome that you're that way with your child, because a lot of parents aren't. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is when you go outside, you're competing. Like, regardless of what we want to say or how we want everyone to get a trophy, everyone doesn't get a trophy. We live in a world where we're literally a few degrees removed from animals. There are winners and losers.
Yes.
We haven't built that perfect society yet where everybody just wins and everything's automated and robots do everything and AI just tells us when we're supposed to eat and go to bed. But when you leave that house, like, you are competing. And the thing that I've found is there's two types of competitors. There are people who want to cut you at the knees to get ahead. And then there's people like myself who want to build you up to as good as you can be. And then I'm going to beat you then. Because, like, I like the thrill of that competition. Like, I want everyone in my circle to be good, but I'm like, we're competing. And, like, I normally place myself in situations where I'm the brokest, I'm the weakest, I'm the least experienced, because I like that climb. Like, if I'm the best person in the group of people that I'm around, I don't want to be around those people beyond a certain extent, because it's like, okay, like, if you're the person who's driving the pack, then who's driving you? You can only push so far if you're the one driving. But what you can always do is humble yourself and move yourselves into groups to where there are people better. And I think that we need competition. Like, that's just what we are. It's in our DNA. But we need the types of competitors that want to beat people at their peak versus, I'm going to undercut, I'm going to undermine you, I'm going to not give you the info that I got because I don't want you competing with me. That doesn't move the world forward. The world moves forward with people who want to beat people at their best. Because then we're constantly moving forward, and it's like, oh, you innovated something? Cool. We're going to up the ante. Like, this world will be an awesome place if we didn't have people who got into position and then built a moat around that position so that they no longer had to compete because they couldn't deal with it. Like, that's a sign of weakness to me. It's like, if you get into position and you're not willing to go, hey, I want some other people over here to compete with me so that I can beat those people because I beat everybody else. Time to make some new competition. Like, it's not supposed to end. Like, that's not the way that we were designed. Like, if you're sitting on the mountaintop and you're resting in the throne, you're on the decline. Like, you're not gonna have a zest for life sitting up there by yourself. It's not gonna be enjoyable.
Ray, I wanted to address a couple of things you had said. So the last thing that you just said about being better than everybody that's in your circle, I'm not gonna lie, that spoke so many volumes to me, because I had to realize, like, especially because I know on this channel we typically talk about healing and trauma and stuff like that. And a lot of time when you become aware, you have a different level of consciousness, you start observing the people, places, and things from your past life, the people, places, a thing in your current life, and you start analyzing how you want to live out the rest of your life. So when you start to break down the people in your life, like you talk about people being an asset or a liability, I'm like, man, like, most of the people I had in my life are nothing but liabilities. So if everybody is coming to me for solutions and I have nobody to turn to, I'm viewing myself as like, man, I'm doing better than everybody in my circle. Not to say, like, I hate to, and I guess to me, I always try to be very humble when I say things like that, because I don't want to view myself as me thinking or acting that I'm better than others, right? But if I'm doing better, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be financially, but it can be mentally, emotionally, spiritually. If I'm elevating in such a way that the people in my life not elevating with me, I'm growing apart from them, it's time for me to start looking for other circles to surround myself with, because other than that, I'll never grow. I'll always be stagnant. I'll always be at the same place, because I don't know. I just always believe that misery love company. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times you have folks around you that's miserable and they're not really growing. They're not going anywhere, anything like that. They want to kind of keep you in that same space. So even when you're growing, they can't even accept that new version of you.
Facts.
They still looking at you as that same Jasmine from years ago. Like, man, I'm not even that. I experienced so much level of awareness. I'm not even the same person that I was years ago. And then you had said something, and I know you was piggybacking off what I said when I said failure is subjective. But you said something about failure is subjective to societal's needs or something like that.
Standards.
Okay, to society standards. So how I view it is like when we look at failure and we look at success and we look at society standards or whatever. And this just me and how I live my life. I don't really care about what other people think. I don't care about what other people feel because right now, like I said all the time, we living in a comparison culture where everybody comparing their life with the next person's life. And that's the reason why we can't grow because we too busy looking around instead of looking in here. Instead of looking in here, we're not growing nowhere in life because we too busy trying to figure out what this person got and what this person got. And sometimes you can be way better than the person that you're looking out, as opposed to like really looking at yourself and working on yourself and building from within and just letting that stuff flow out. So when you said societal standards, what it made me think about is like when I think about the things I want and my desires in life, and I know a lot of times you would have people say, well, your desires are too lofty as a person. So say for instance, as a woman, according to society, they will assume that me as a woman, my goal is part of my success is being a wife, right? But when I tell them that it's not that I don't think I could be a wife or I don't believe that I won't make a great wife, it's that is not what I look at as success. For me being successful is me having a certain level of peace within. How can I be engaged in a marriage or entertaining anything if I don't have peace within myself? Because other than that, it will be nothing but chaos. So, or you may have somebody say, well, you're successful if you make $100,000. Now, I done had a job where I was making $100,000 a year. But it just seemed like the more money you have, the more problems. And I know Biggie Small said that what is so. The more money you have, the more problems. And if you're not really taught to, you're really not taught financial literacy, it's going to be hard for you to maintain that 100,000 because I know people that was making 40,000 and they was managing their money so well, A1 credit, and they was living. I wouldn't say they was living. I'm gonna just say their financial situation appeared to be better than what mine was, and I was making way more money than them. I just didn't know what to do with it. I was just being very free with my coins, if I would say so. But yeah, I think right now we live in a time where we just care too much about what everybody think about us. We just care too much.
You hit the nail on the head, but the question you have to ask yourself is why? Why do we care? And when it comes to it's the same, like we've had this conversation. It's kind of a circular conversation, but like I said, from my standpoint, y'all know where I come from, so it's always going to be from the man's angle. There, we can all collectively agree that like if somebody is 40 and they're dropping fries at McDonald's and they're a man, they're not successful. The men on this panel, no man's going to look at him and be like, yeah, I want my daughter to marry that guy. That looks like a good prospect for her protection and provision in life. No woman is going to look at that man and go, yeah, I think we can make our goals together. Like, that's just not the way that we're built. So when I say that failure
is that a society thing or
society, like if you can survive it, then you're looking at scenarios that are layers deep, that you have 5,000 years of programming that says, as a woman, if you reproduce with this man, you're going to be in a vulnerable spot. Is he going to be capable of navigating me through this vulnerable spot? Because there's more risk on the female's end than on the man's end when it comes to child rearing, when it comes to societal collapse, all of those things. Like if stuff goes bad and the men fail, that brunt of that carnage falls on the women. And like there's that, like we're like literally the last line of defense in there. So like when I look at success and failure, I'm like, okay, if our genetic goal as an animal, and we're gonna break this down to bare basics, it's to replicate ourselves. So you've already technically won at that. That's everyone's goal. That's the reason you have, normally it's a rarity to see someone in their 20s have a lot of the genetic diseases that we get in older age, because those are your prime years for reproducing, and then it goes, oh well, if you've gotten too old, then like, we don't need you anymore. Like, you don't really need to be around here. Like, your immune system starts tapering off because it's like you probably have made some kids, you probably reproduced, you've probably done your genetic duty. We don't have to keep this machine running as well as we did before. It's not as pertinent.
I don't know that I agree with everything. Just introducing myself, Hugh Rogers here.
What's going on, Hugh?
Now, first off, when I go all the way back and I think about the Genesis, okay, and so we throw in society, we throw in standards and everything. Okay, this is all based upon what someone or some group or some subculture within a culture, or even some culture said, okay, hey, this is normal and this is the standard. So if you don't meet this standard here, then you're this. I believe it was Socrates who had a conversation about an imaginary city. And just to give you just the gist of it, is to say that you and I, we're the government, and the others on the panel are our citizens. So what's good for us, the government, is for them to give us all of their work, all of their wealth. And if they do not do it, not only are they bad citizens, but they're criminal. It's criminal. So they're criminals. Okay, so when we project that, and when that's accepted, and it's accepted widely enough for it to become the decorum, then now we begin that programming. Just like every time we turn this TV on, we watch television programs. It's the program. So there has been a programming that has been going on forever. You know, and the way that it guides you or it directs you, this is the way that we begin to think. And so therefore we begin to build upon that, because that's what makes sense to us. If you saw me and I took off in the room and I'm literally flying like Superman, you would have to find a way for you to process this in your mind so that you can deal with it. So you may call me a warlock. You may call me anything, but because that's what man does. I heard you say how basically how, and forgive me for paraphrasing, how man wants to put you in a box.
Yep.
That's what we do, because man seeks to control. Man seeks to control. So we do that when we say this is 3 feet high. This is 4 feet wide. This is this much space. This is this much time. This, you know, we do it in so many instances, so much so to where we have daylight savings. This is man created.
Yep.
We do this, and then we say, okay, well now you have to get on board with this. You have to get on papers. If not, then you're the odd man out. Then you're the one who's wrong. So much so to where when we take a look at people who are what we call autistic, and we say, okay, well, where they're different, is something wrong with them, or you know, but really, if you've ever dealt with someone dealing with autism, and you can see the way that their mind operates, it's something to make you think about how our mind isn't operating.
Right.
You know, because I've dealt with people, they can literally recite word for word or of a conversation, of a book, of a movie, you know, numbers. And I know that we don't operate off of all of our brain. You know, we're only using a tiny percent of it. But let me get back on task. So I believe that your money is only as good as you use it. You know, thus, as Jasmine was saying, you know, she could be making $100,000 and someone could be making $40,000, and she's not using her money for something, for anything. She's going out, she's wasting her money. Her money has no value to her. So it shows no value. And that person who is making $40,000, you know, they're using their money wisely. So their money has more power. And so they would have to grow. You know, okay, also, I wanted to comment on failure versus success, and this goes back to when I first began and speaking about the origin of it. I don't recall whether it was Benjamin Franklin or Einstein, but I believe it was Benjamin Franklin, who discovered that with every attempt that they deemed a failure really was him just excluding what wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So thus, bringing him closer to that which would work. Now, I work with the homeless population in East St. Louis. And so I talk to people every day, and I try to set them up, with housing, with jobs, with anything that they need, because my position there is a community health worker. Okay. And so what I began to wonder is if there are any failures at all, because it seemed to me that I would see people who are doing exactly what it takes
mm-hmm.
to be in the position, in the predicament that they're in. Now, this is just another way of thinking about it. I'm not
I like where you're going.
That this is what it is. Okay, because if I'm what the world deems to be successful, then that means that I've done everything that it took for me to be successful. Okay, but on the flip side of the coin, if I'm what the world deems to be a failure, then I've had to do everything that it took for me to be the failure. Not get up to go to work, lose that job, not go to school, not use my money wisely. These are conscious decisions that I'm making. Of course, we have, what is known as mental illness. And in my opinion, everyone suffers from some form of mental illness at some time. Like you get a cold, I can get a cold. Mm-hmm. But it's just your ways of coping or the medicine. You may not have to take a pill or take, prescribed medication. You may just have to learn coping skills, because say if something makes you anxious, that's anxiety. Well, that's a mental illness. If you know what to do at that time, and you do that at that time, that's like you having a cold. You get the sniffles, and you know what to do, so you take care of that so that you can get over that. See, I never look at the glass as being half empty. It's always half full. I'm a guy who grew up in the Les Brown, Zig Ziglar age, and my mom, she was into sales. So I would get her tapes and I would listen to them overnight, and I would wake up saying, hey, I'm the thinker that thinks, the thought that makes the thing. I would wake up saying, hey, man wasn't made to live his making, but in living his making, he'll make his living. What man wasn't made to make a living, but in living his making, he'll make his living. So I became that guy who always had something positive to say, as I'm told. But it's just me coping, because the world is a scary place, because you do have people who will cut you off at the knee. Mm-hmm. You do have people who will just literally just cut off your neck for them to succeed. Even if that's not the formula for them to succeed, they will stick. You will be one of the failed attempts that they may look at, to say, hey, this is one this is one way that this won't work. Right. So for that reason, I kind of view it differently, but I can trace and I can follow exactly where you're going, and not to say, hey, no, you're wrong. No, I'm not saying that. I can follow it and I can trace it, because there's truth to it, but we live in a world where it's not only crabs in a bucket, but it's snakes down there. I mean, literally think about it. Yeah. As America at the top, we have to stay at the top. So there are certain things that we have to do. And hey, I can't let you come up to the mountaintop with me, because then I'm bringing an opponent right there with me. So America, what we do is we keep our enemies in check, and we keep our allies beneath us. But I mean, and that's just playing the game, so I play chess. Mm-hmm. so I can understand it. Great country. I'm happy to be here, to take advantage of all of the resources that I can, and to enjoy the benefits, so much so to when I see our servicemen, I thank you for your service, because I know freedom isn't free, but I understand what's going on, and it's that understanding that propels me, that keeps me pushing forward, moving forward, so that I can do what it is that is conducive to me obtaining what I deem to be a success. Now, whether that success is, hey, listen, I just want to get that job at McDonald's, like you said, flipping them fries, and you know what I'm saying? And you may not be looking at me like I'm successful, but you may be the father of that girl that I'm saying, hey, there's my next challenge. See, because I'm going to make you love me. Your daughter love me, and I'm gonna be flipping these fries. And who knows? I mean, I'm just saying, who knows? Maybe if you embrace me, give me some of what you get, you can change my thinking, and then we may own a chain of McDonald's together.
I'm sorry, I'm not in the camp of not my house.
It's crazy that you say that, because I know that's very judgmental, but when I remember my first job I had, right? It wasn't McDonald's. I know everybody think that everybody's first job is McDonald's. My first job, I was 16 years old. I was working at KFC. And
same thing, Burger King, KFC, McDonald's.
Right, stop laughing.
Let me tell you what the difference.
Listen. No, but the thing you gotta understand. But the thing you gotta understand is there's a double standard there. I would never judge a woman at McDonald's because I could change her life.
No, just
I ain't going for it.
Y'all just said what's the difference between McDonald's and KFC, right? I'm finna crack a joke. KFC had honey barbecue wings.
Hey.
I
was saying that because I had a supervisor that was a man, and he was working there, and I don't know, he did just as much work as the regular workers did, and he was bringing in, I want to say, anywhere between $65,000 and $75,000 as a manager. So I mean, he's still flipping burgers and he's still dropping them fries. So I mean, would you still judge him because he's working at that place?
He's at the top of that hierarchy, and that was the thing that was what I was kind of getting at. Like, no, do I think that everybody's going to be a winner? No, 100% not. And I still need someone to give me those fries, and I need someone to give me my burgers. So I understand that. Historically, we've always had a peasant class of people. That's not my problem, and that's not who I'm here for. I'm here to help those who want to be helped and can be helped. And everyone else, when I go to McDonald's, I scan the place, and I'm like, are there any hot chicks in here whose lives I could change? And then everyone else, as far as I'm concerned, is a dead body. Like, I'm just like,
wait, I got a question for you, though. Okay, so I got a question for both of you gentlemen, for anyone on the panel who feel like that. What if your daughter is in love with the guy? What can you do now? I'm not talking about your 16-year-old daughter. I'm talking about your grown, because I got grown kids. And it was hard for me to tell my kids what to do when they were teenagers. Yes. Now my kids, they're grown, so all I can do is advise them. I can say, hey, listen, I think that guy right there, I think he's trouble. Or I can say, hey, son, don't do that, because you shouldn't mess around with her because she looks like she's this type of, woman. But they're going to do what it is that they think they want to do, because they don't really know. But they're going to do what they think they want to do. And when the consequences come, then you still have to be dead. So now, if you say, well, I told you don't do this, so now I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
Then when you cut them off, you not only cut them off, but you cut yourself off.
No, I wouldn't cut my kid off, though. That would be the difference. I would allow it to be a lesson learned. And honestly, I speak from experience from being a man. I started actually working at a very young age to actually get out of trouble. My mama was the manager at Harold's, and I started working at Harold's at the middle of 7th grade, right? So I worked up into Harold's up until the age I was 26, and all I ever made at Harold's was minimum wage. I remember getting paid $4.50 an hour, working like 60 hours and bringing home $318 a week. You know what I mean? And to be honest, even in that place, I ain't gonna lie, I used to shoot the J at a lot of women. I got a lot of beautiful women up in there, you know, and all of that. But it was like I still never completely felt like a man because I felt like I wasn't making enough bacon to hold up to my own standard. Because it was like, excuse the verse, but at the time, like I had to sell weed to actually make the money to live the lifestyle that I wanted to live, but I didn't want to sell weed. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was like I previously had a felony on my hand that prevented me from getting anything better. So it was like I was stuck in that position. And although nobody ever played me or down me, it was a personal standard in my own life. Because I'm like, shit, I can't even afford a decent 1-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. I got to go stay on 79th and Loomis and might get robbed going in the house and coming out the house.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
By that white
So it was like, I know from my personal experience, right? And then not only that, you know, I know we say like we'll come in women's life and change their life financially, right? You will come in that woman's life, and I've played that role before, and you save her financially, but you can't save her financially for real if she ain't saved mentally. You know what I mean? So it's like I've been there, and I believe as a man, we're supposed to be provider, protector, and all that. But what I give to this woman, goddamn it, she should be able to at least take a little crock pot and grow it. You know what I mean? So I've been in that situation where like that didn't happen for me several times, and I did it several times because honestly, again, I believe like if I make the bread, then goddamn it, pick up a hobby that's gonna back us up then. Because I do believe, like you said, Rico, it will fall on her. So while I'm doing what I'm doing, you become the backup system. Go get a PhD, go get a whatever. Pick up a damn good hobby where you can make some more money. But like I said, it never played out for me. So now, like with my previous relationship, I ain't gonna lie, call it however you want to. What's your credit score look like?
Yeah.
Mine?
Question.
No.
I was about to say mine's 813, bro. Like I can show you right now.
All right. That's right, Ray.
I wanted to know that. Like, what does your credit score look like? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, and I know where I'm headed, right?
Yep.
I don't want a woman with $70,000 in credit card debt.
Yeah.
If that's 70 from student loans, I can dig that. You know what I mean? I can dig that. If you was doing something with it, I can dig it. But if you got 3 different car loans,
I mean,
well, look, we all know who to ask to co-sign for us.
Yeah,
Right?
Uncle Ray.
I'm not saying my credit ain't one because I just went out on the limb and then did a lot of investing. So when you get them loans and it take you down a little bit, but I'm set to reestablish. But that was just what it was for me. So I'm like, I have to date a woman, and to be honest, this is what I feel like y'all really talking about. I think society damn near dictates people's standards. We say it's a societal thing, but we allow what society say to set our rules, our guidelines, our boundaries on what we think love is, what we think success is, and what we think all of these other things. And then I do agree with both.
Hold up, Darryl. Let me pause you real quick. I'm sorry. But if within the Black community specifically, we let society dictate our standards, we'd be in a much better position because everybody else is winning but us.
You know what? No.
Like we are definitely not going with societal standards. We are warping them.
I mean, but we actually are. You know why? Because it's society standards, their view of us. So we're doing exactly what how society sees us. In this society, they see us uncouth. Yeah.
Right.
They see us. Listen, so much so, if I was able to grow hair, and
hey, go vegan, bro. I've been vegan 2 weeks and I have to shave every other day now. It's growing too fast.
long locks, right?
Right.
Okay. Or if I had the afro, okay.
Right.
Now, listen, society doesn't see that as part of my beauty. They don't see that.
Right.
They see that in the worst way. So much so to where I believe it was Napoleon who first saw, it might not have been Napoleon. Anyway, who first saw someone with locks, and he called them dreadful, that dreadful hair. And that's where dreadlocks came from. So therefore, you have many people who are more conscious, they don't refer to them as dreadlocks. They refer to them as locks. Okay. Yeah. But now, if we're talking about a lion. You know, on National Geographic, they're talking about his mane. It's a sign of his beauty. So why wouldn't my hair be a sign of my beauty? See, I was taught to hate myself. I was taught not to love myself. So, and I got that from society. So that's what we do over and over and over again. Now I chase that. Now, Jasmine, can I go deep? Should I go into my history?
No, I got a question for you after you're done.
I want to speak on it too, because it's like we have society, but what's making the other people win, even though they're in a society, they have a community. And that's what their microcosm, they're basing their selves on. So in this community over here, Chinese community, this is what we're going to do. Okay. Even though we're operating in a bigger space, we still got control within the society. So we ain't gonna listen to them, whatever. We still gonna send our kids here. We're gonna do this. And we don't have a community. We can't even come together.
So there's, but the issue is the societies that are coming over here that are winning, there's no white community either. America doesn't have a community. It should be an American community. We do not have a community. If you look at who's winning as far as average household income and wealth in America, white people are 2 rungs above us. They're not even worth competing with or comparing to.
And it's
people who are coming here with actual communities are the ones that are winning.
Yeah, but you know what? Can I tell you why?
And list them off.
I'm gonna tell you why, and then I'm gonna let Ardell. Well, I'm gonna let Hugh speak. That's my uncle, so I call him Ardell, but his real name is Hugh. I'm gonna tell you why. So that's because they get so much help when they come over here. So when I was in my last relationship, we stayed in this really nice community. Our neighbors was from another country. And once we got a chance to know them, they expressed how much the government helps them, like throwing all of this money to them. So they're not paying for their house. They got the solar panels all on their house. They back. When I say like, I can't explain to you how nice everything was. And the more children that they have, the more money that they're giving. The government is giving them this money to come over here. Then
and Jasmine, don't say the government. It's us. Call it what it is. We're giving them that money.
Okay, well, we're giving them the money.
because they take it from the taxes. The government doesn't just imagine up money. When we look at all the stuff that this government gives, and that's the reason I'm like, we got to sit down and we got to have some conversations, some really hard ones as Americans, because the fact that we will give everyone else money and we haven't fixed our own people. We aren't making our own people whole. We got soldiers coming back that are going straight out to outdoors because there's no support system for them. Like all of the money that we're giving, and like we always look at it and the way they frame it is the government decides. But it's not the government that's deciding to do that and then making up some money that they had. Our government doesn't make money. It's us. We're literally like the person that you see, and like as competitive as I am, nothing infuriates me more than those stories, because we've got people here that we could make whole here. And I'm all for helping everyone else as soon as we make ourselves whole here, because we are literally that is one of the things that is just tearing at this country and us as a people as a whole, all of us. And we're not having that conversation because we're too busy fighting with each other internally. Well, and that's what they want. Because if we all sat there and looked, and you actually stopped saying the government, don't use that verbiage. Say my money. You lived across from somebody who was in a better situation that got put on, and you paid for it. The government didn't pay for that. You did. Wife school did. Hugh did. Worthy Expectations did. Doctor down there low did. Daru did, and I did. We paid for that. And had no say in it.
I mean,
no say.
You know, and that's the whole thing, you know, because it's so deep, you know, from redlining to even to the reparations, you know, and so I think about all that, and I see the veterans, because it's so many veterans that are among our homeless population. I deal with them every day. I have grown men sit across from me and they cry like a baby. It is my job to link the community to resources. So I help with housing, I help with jobs, I help with food banks, because we have what is known as food deserts. I help to break down the barriers of what we call in my profession the social determinants to health. Because if if you got this light bill that you can't afford to pay, and you have to choose between this light bill and your medication, you're not telling your doctor this, but you may tell a community health worker, hey, listen, I can't pay my light bill, so I need to hook you up with Cedar or hook you up with Light Heat, and say, look here, there's money. So what I do is I tell my clients, listen, after I help them get on their feet and they get in their place, I don't care because you have the money for that light bill. If Light Heat will pay that light bill, let them pay that bill, because you can use your money for something else. And they don't have the mindset of that, because like you say, as men, we need to be able to provide. You know, I ran myself straight to prison with that thought. As they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I was on that road and I didn't understand how I was affecting my community. I didn't understand that because at the time I was just, hey, I got kids, I got family, this is needed. Hey, they're going to do this anyway, so I'm going to help them do that. So I didn't have the mind, I didn't have the wherewithal, you know, to say, hey, listen, you know what, this is wrong because of this. I could have went to the McDonald's, I could have went to college when I graduated high school, but I had a child 3 days before graduating high school in 1991. And I made the choice. I didn't grow up with a father because my father died when I was 3 months. That's not an excuse. That's not a crutch. My mom, she raised me, you know, and she taught me many lessons, but I went out into the streets. And in the streets of Chicago, oh yeah, it's like no other place. I mean, you know, so I went out there, got in trouble, got 20 years in the feds. I did 17 years. My mom died while I was there, stepdad, because she married in 98. My grandmother, auntie, I had a nephew that was 3 years old, died while I was there. I never got a chance to see him, never got a chance to hold him. These are the consequences to my decisions. My kids grew up without me, and they have their own situations, and we're just now coming around to build that relationship, to build those relationships, and I have to do it individually with them because they're individual people. Just came home in 2018, you know, and this is me hitting the restart button. So yeah, so now, you know, so I've acquired property, I own property, I work, I've written 2 books. I started a podcast, didn't have time to finish it, you know, but this is me hitting the restart button because I know that there's so much more to me and so much more in me than what I'm giving, than what I'm using to get to where I need to be. And that was me chasing. I was chasing it because I need to have this much money and be able to do this for me to say that I'm a man. You know, money don't make a man. A man makes money.
Facts.
So if I'm someone different when I have money than I am when I don't have money, then there's a problem there. Now, my abilities, my capabilities when I don't have money won't be those when I have money. You know, but I should basically be that same person. You know, so I chased that in society. You know, I had rap CDs, I did all of that, and I chased it and I chased it and I chased it, but I was chasing it the wrong way. And so many times our youth, they chase it the wrong way. Like, I'm sure you got a formula for getting to where you're at now. You know,
discipline. That's the formula. The one thing that I was going to say about money changing people, though, the money doesn't change people. If you don't have character before you get money, all it's going to do is expose you, because then you can do what you actually wanted to do. And I've experienced this multiple times with people that I've tried to help get on. Be like, hey, I can put you in a path where you're on a career path where you're going to be above 70 grand a year, 6 figures. A trail to 6 figures. And as they got more money, I had 2 instances where I watched these people self-destruct, where you find out, oh, this person is an addict. Oh, they were in a job where they literally couldn't afford to drink or do drugs.
I'm gonna agree with you, Ray. I'm gonna agree with you when you said that, because, you know, like when women look at men, right? And you have some women, they look at a man and they look at all of these materialistic things that he may have. Some women, that may make her drawers wet. She may get really excited about these superficial things that she believed this man may or may not have. But then you have a woman that has values and standards, and she's really looking towards characteristics. And we're looking at this dude like he ain't nothing but a lame with money. You can't unlame a money. Can't unlame a lame.
You just a rich lame.
I literally fell into a situation like that. Like I had gotten divorced, well, separated from my husband, and so here comes this guy who looked good. So, oh, there goes my vice. I like a guy that looks good. Okay, and he was a real lame, and I was like, well, damn. I said I have 3 kids, and he's like, oh. Okay, and I was dumb too, so I played into it as well. So he's like, "Oh, I need some food." I'm like, "But you're a whole grown man, and you can't even buy yourself a meal." Like, okay, that's a little weird. But me being nice and naive, I would like, do things. I would give, and I'm like, and when I would ask for like reciprocation, it was a problem. I'm like, okay, now this is whack. So eventually, I was like, I had to learn my lesson. So like when I see those type of men approach me, I'm more like cognizant, like, okay, let me ask some questions, because yes, you can have nice things, but where's your character? Can you provide for me? Or can like a person like me, I like to spend money, I like retail therapy, but okay, can you be like, you're going overboard right now, you know what I'm saying? Can you manage that? Because if we have a household together, I have to be considerate of the contribution to the household. Now, it's not about me and getting my drawers wet, like you said, and spending your money and being frivolous. It's not about that. It's about how much you can keep. So I need a man that has those characteristics instead of me being in my, girly mode. So hey,
I've heard it said that
live it up on social media.
Money only makes you more of what you already are.
Yes.
So if you were an asshole before you had money, you become a bigger asshole.
That's right.
If you're a kind, generous person who cares about people, that gives you the opportunity to just be more of what you already are.
Facts.
So money is important. Money in some cases is super important, because try buying a loaf of bread without it. Try buying a car without it.
Yeah.
Yes, money is important, but the most important thing is character.
That's right.
Now, Ray, you said you rebuilt yourself. Now, the audience out there doesn't know how you rebuilt yourself. They're sitting there going, well, what did he do? Because there is, now I'm not asking you how you did it. You can explain that. But there is a process to rebuilding yourself. And if you don't really know it and understand it, all you're doing is pissing in the wind, as you can say.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
100%. 100%.
If I can add in a layer, and it's funny, worthy expectations. I was typing that in the back chat, like how, but then I didn't want to challenge you to be like, I'm questioning you, so I deleted it. But I just want to add a layer under with everything everyone just said. Most people who have this awesome character or this very kind soul, if you do the track work to where this narrative came from, it's usually from pain. So it's usually from neglect, abandonment. And so we become this tube of honey so we could attract. We don't say those words, like we don't do it on purpose, but now I do feed giveaways. I give back. I give to the homeless. I'm very kind. The man could have no children and I have 10 children, but because I want him to feel like a king, I give back to him first. But really, what's the goal? If I give to my king, if he's worth a damn at all, he'll invest back in his queen and family. So at the core, when we talk about the character, yes, but under that character, what drives it? And when we talk about making changes, a lot of people make the changes on the top, and I think maybe even this is where you were going with this, sir, worthy expectations. We make the changes at the top, and then all we really do was like we changed the color of the car, but it's the same engine. We change the design, but it's the same engine. We change the whatever, but it's still the same engine. And so I don't think we deal enough with our mental health. I don't think we deal enough with childhood experiences that led to this such an impact on us that we live our lives based on inadequacies, not feeling like it's never enough. So I can go get a girlfriend who's a queen. I can make her my wife. She's a queen. She does it all. She does it all. She does it all. But guess what? I suffer from inadequacy. I failed to mention that on my application when I met her. And then she can't understand why I'm asking her to perform this one type of sex one night. And then I beg and beg and beg. She finally does it. And then 2 weeks later, I'm asking for something different. And she's like, no, no, no. And then I finally do the wear down method, and she finally does it. And then a month later, when I'm saying my cousin is coming over, don't stop what you're doing. You will let your cousin see. I thought it was about me. I thought it was about me. And then I had these narcissistic traits, which narcissism is loving yourself 100 times more than anyone else loves you. Because if I don't love myself that much, who will? So anyway, I just wanted to give another layer on, just one layer under what everyone else said for us to consider.
I mean, and that's 100% correct, because there's a balance. There's a balance in everything. And if that balance isn't in place, then instead of me just being assertive, I'll be overbearing. I'll be it'll become a form of narcissism. I'll be being a jerk. Now, it's one thing for me to speak up for myself, be assertive and interject. But it's something else when I go overboard. It's one thing for me to be giving and for me to be kind, but it's something else when I go overboard, because now I welcome in the wolves, and so now I'm taking advantage of. Okay, I do believe in treating people the way that you want to be treated. Like me, I respect people because I respect myself. Because I believe that man responds to consequences. If I put my hand on the stove and the stove is hot, my hand burns. That's the consequence. So I won't put my hand on the stove. Even a baby, you can tell a baby not to touch a stove, and you're telling, and we've all probably done this with kids, and we tell them hot. But once that baby burns itself one time, every time somebody comes to the house, the baby telling everybody come to the house hot. The baby walking about the stove say hot. Because we respond to consequences, and what you were speaking about, the childhood things that happen, these are called acers, that has happened to us, and that they were traumatic experiences, and they shaped us from then on. Within every culture you have subcultures, so and when you break that down further, then you have the family structure. And this is what we learn from. I often ask people, when I'm giving a motivational speech, I say, hey, you remember that thing that you did really well when you were younger, whether it was dancing, whether it was singing, if you can tumble and turn flips, what made you stop? Who told you that you couldn't dance? Who told you that you couldn't sing? You see, because when we were young, we dared to dream. And we would dream. And then as we got older and we took on more of the world, and we took on more of the world telling us that we can't. Then we began to doubt ourselves. We began to lack then. And so at some point, we just said, okay, well, forget it. I'll do this. I'll settle for this. Or I'll settle for that job. McDonald's flipping them fries. I just got to get something. What I'm saying?
Really hoping.
Right.
Sorry. I'm really hoping that people understand that impact that you're talking about. Because when you say we set in some self-doubts and stuff, some people say, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and let that stuff go. You need to be a man. But I like what you're saying, because they don't understand the impact that has over a lifetime. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to add that.
So these are really learned behaviors.
Yeah.
We learn how to behave. See, for me, like if I see if I see somebody standing behind a house, behind a tree, taking a piss, I'm going to view it one way, but somebody like, man, he out here, man, he doing. So you may not understand that his grandfather taught him, and his grandfather's father taught him that, because during their time there were no colored bathrooms.
Outhouse.
They may be walking, and so they have to stop to relieve themselves, so they go in the alley, so they go around. So I understand that mindset. Not that it's something that I subscribe to. If I have to, believe me, I will, like any other human being. I'm gonna relieve myself. I'm just gonna try to make sure that nobody sees. Okay, but it's things like that. It's those things that you were taught, things that we were all taught, even though we may have been taught incorrectly, even though we may have been miseducated on it, and we held on to them because they became comfortable. The doctor may tell me, or my chiropractor, he may tell me, sit up straight like this and my back won't hurt anymore. But when I do that, it seems like my back hurts more. So I go back down into the rut that I was in, and now that feels comfortable. So I'm complacent right there. You know, and these are the things, right? These are the conversations that we have to have. And these are the things, these are the thoughts that we have to ponder. Why do I do this way? As I said, you know, my father died when I was 3 months. My whole life, I wanted to know who I did this like. Where did this come from? Because when you speak about layers, man, there are so many layers. And in the Black community, we don't go see therapists. That's like taboo. We're like, therapists, man. But I ain't crazy. I ain't gonna say no, but we need to be able to speak to a therapist, to someone to help us unpack. Because if we don't unpack all this stuff and we carry this around with us, then yeah, it's heavy. It's gonna be heavy on me when I'm going to this job interview. This is my opportunity. You know, and we know that preparation, when preparation meets opportunity, then we success. I think that's what you were saying earlier. You know what I'm saying? So we know that. But it's hard for me to prepare because I got all this baggage and I can't find my other sock because it's so much clutter in a room that's my mind. So I can't find what I need. So I can't come and be my best. And then that's a defeat. So I carry that around with me. And then when I encounter you and I engage with you, then you just get that you catch me at that boiling point. And now I'm just that angry guy. You know, and so maybe that may lead to incarceration, to me being incarcerated from our encounter, or that may lead to me making a bad decision, or like someone said, you know, it takes money to buy a loaf of bread. I don't have a loaf of bread, but my stomach is empty, and my kids' stomachs are empty, so I'm going to go and get that loaf of bread if I have to just take it, you know, and so I go and take it. But all of these decisions, they're so much of you didn't even choose, and you don't even know that you didn't choose, and you don't even understand that you don't have to choose it anymore. Like how Rico was saying, discipline. It all comes down to discipline. I had to hit the reset button. I had to hit the reset. I had to change a lot of things, but it has to be by a conscious effort. I even had family, and Jasmine, she would tell you to think that I just then lost my mind, maybe, or I'm acting like this, or I'm acting like that. No, because I had to become that who I wanted to be.
Rico.
So who I was, that guy had to die. I started walking around shaking people's hands saying, Hugh Rogers, how you doing? Telling them what my name is, because they were still calling me my street name. And I said, no, he did. I had to keep him in a joint. He couldn't come out here with me. So I had to play the game different. So I had to play the game with the cards face up with my wife. When I got my wife, I had to play the game. You know, I can't play the game with you that I played in my younger days, because that didn't give me what I wanted. It made me view relationships different. It made me view offenses different, insults differently, because I have to give an account for my every action, my every word. So if I can't give into you, I'm not going to take from you. You know, and that's where I'm at. That's my formula. I'm not quite where I want to be. I'm building. But as building, I'm learning. And like you said, I'm surrounding myself around individuals who know more than me. My friends today are policemen. I got the mayor of East St. Louis. He's a friend of mine. Firemen. You know who my friends were before? The other dudes who I was out there selling dope with. This gang banger, he a GD, he a vice lord, and he this, he that. You know, but I had to get away from all of that, and I had to take all of the ridicule from that because you don't understand where I'm going. Because you've never seen this before. So yeah.
Hugh, as you said, you're not where you want to be yet. But you are successful because you've decided on a destination, and every day and every choice you make is in alignment with that destination. So right now you are successful. And we, as human beings, as we talked about the baby touching the stove, we are all natural risk takers from birth. Our minds are wide open. We want to learn. We want to experience. We want to understand. But conditioned nature, Hugh, is what you had to overcome. We are from birth genetically predisposed. We're conditioned genetically. And then as we live our life, environmentally. And your environmental conditioning can overcome your genetics. So you may be predisposed to do certain things based on your ancestors and everything that they've experienced, because we all come from something. But at some point, you have to consciously, as you said, make a choice. And then, as Ray said, it's dedication and discipline to get you there. You have to be disciplined as to what you obsess with. Your obsessions will always come to be because you put so much time and energy into creating them. So as we talked earlier about competitive nature, the only competition you should have is with your own ignorance, to become more informed, to have a greater understanding of things. And your results in life are the only thing that matters. Success and failure, polar opposites of the same thing. They're just results. So all you ever have to ask yourself is, do I like the results I have in life? No. What do you want differently? See, your only job in life is to decide what you want. And what happens is when somebody decides what they want and they don't have any idea how they're going to get it, they give up on the desire. They stop working towards it. But what people need to understand is that if you truly want something, you have to obsess with it and you have to commit to it. And the moment you do that, you are successful because you are now moving in a direction of acquiring or becoming or whatever, creating a result that you want in life. You have to. Go ahead.
Go ahead. The wife is going to say something that I would like to jump in.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave after this. I love you guys. But it's true with the psychology and trying to know, like, well, why am I doing these things? You know, sometimes what Mr. Where the expectation said is like our environment. Now, let me tell you, this is how I met Miss Jasmine and how she invited me on her show. I had stated, you know, my dad. So the dad that I glorified, that spoke so many things over my life, he also said, hey, why don't you do things like her? Why don't you do things like, why don't you act like this girl? Why don't you pray like this girl? So that created in me self-doubt in who I was. I'm like, well, am I doing the right things or am I doing the wrong things? Or I thought, what about me? Can you see me as me and not as compared to someone else? So it made me feel some type of way about myself, but I would never address it. I just took it inside and was like, well, I need to be this way. I need to be that way. And then I always compared myself, dumbing myself down to compared to other people. And And it affected me so much, like that later in my life, I just felt like I always had to overachieve. I always had to people please. Like I was just doing everything based on other people and not myself, not my own merits. And it was just like so that I can make my dad happy, so I can make the church happy. Oh, I gotta be this way, I gotta be that way, and never like discover who I was. You know what I'm saying? And it just came to a point where I was like, you know what, I don't like living like this. And like you said, it came to a choice and a decision. Like, why am I doing like this? Why do I, and I had to talk to somebody that had more wisdom than me, you know what I'm saying? And they said, well, you have to be Stephanie. You can't be what everybody else is trying to make you to be. You can't be Hugh. You can't be Dr. You have to be yourself. Yeah. Somebody talking. 1 second. And so, and so, that really propelled me to be like, wow, okay, I got something in me. I can make my own choices. I can determine my own ship and where I want to go and in my life. And ever since then, like that door has never been closed. I learned new techniques on like, okay, well, how can I, empower myself or motivate myself or generate some type of habit that would keep me wanting to go for greatness, you know what I'm saying? My own success. Like I discovered like even writing things down, writing what I want to see. Sometimes it wasn't like having a mentor. It was actually like writing a list. What do I want? What do I want to accomplish? And when I look back, and I believe it's one of Bob Proctor's or one of those men that said about writing a list about everything that you want to see, I would go back and be like, oh, I checked that off. I checked that off. I checked that off. So it was my own personal list, my own personal success that I was able to achieve. And so I was like, yes, I can. Well, if I can do these little things, I can do bigger things. Okay. When I didn't have anything, well, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. All right. How about that? And so I want to, be around good people, smart people. I'm probably the least intellectual person on this panel. As I'm sitting here hearing you guys, I'm like, woo, I need to read some books. And but I still challenge myself to present myself and not shy away, because it's the connections, it's the testimonies from you guys, it's the knowledge that you guys share that will help me be better. And then I can challenge Reckless Ray and beat him in competition.
Bro, I'm just letting you know, if I buckle down and argue with you, just don't. Like, if I'm willing to actually argue about something, you might not want to do that.
I was just making some jokes. I was just making a joke. I just wanted to.
Before you get out of here, I do want to first and foremost say thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule, even though you got to get the baby head together and everything.
Yeah.
From my sister to the next, I appreciate you. I do want to let you know you are very intellectual. I just highlighted that. Because even with me being on the show with you those very few times, I've learned a lot, especially doing the after show with me sharing my personal experience, and I'm learning from other people's experience. And I think that's why it's so important for us when we own these shows to kind of, be transparent, because you never really know who's watching. You can have one person like the show, but you can have 50 million people watching. And I just think it's weird that sometimes people don't really want to support unless it's popular. But I mean, as long as we get through to one person, that's all that matters. And I'm telling you, and this is just me being completely transparent. I've learned some things from you, even when in the midst of you talking about the mistakes that you made, the failures, right?
Yeah.
That's going to help me. Your failures are going to help me with my success. Just like you said, if you was to pay for something with Bob Proctor, how you would pay all of this money to learn from somebody else's mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry you had to go through that, like with your dad and everything. And for me, I feel like comparison is the thief of joy, right? And when I think about that, that's why I always talk about how we living in a time right now where the comparison culture is at an all-time high. That's why when it comes to things in society, though the way I shut down from the world, it can be completely unhealthy. But
Yes.
the way I live my life is like I'm not living my life to make other people happy. I'm not living my life for society. I'm doing the things that make me happy. I'm doing the things that make peace to me. And as long as I'm doing those things and it's not causing harm to anybody, a lot of times I'm causing peace to other people. You get what I'm saying? Just by being myself, loving on myself. The more I love on myself, the easier it becomes for me to love on other people. The more I give myself, the easier it is for me to give to other people. The more I take care of myself, the easier it becomes for me to take care of other people, because I always say that I want to operate out of peace and love, and I'm doing just exactly that. And my cup is running over with peace and love, so it's easy for me to like share what it is that I have. But I was listening to you, and I was listening to Worthy Expectations, and he said that the only job, he said something about you decide what you want, you have to obsess with it, right? And I'm listening to both of you guys speak, and I'm gonna make this quick because I know you got to get up out of here. But what it made me think about is, I want to say in February, I was about to host an event at my spa called the law of it was a law of attraction event. I was going to have like a vision board event teaching people how to get whatever it is that they want out of life. And I thought about that because I'm like, I'm listening to what I call him Mike. I'm gonna just say Mike because the whole word, the expectation is driving me crazy.
Go, Mike.
So
Hello.
Mike saying, talking about like how when you have these ideas and you have these goals that you want to achieve for yourself, not for nobody else, but for yourself, right? You want to obsess over these things. And then I'm listening to you about this list. So I think I talked about it like maybe on the first show that I had, and at the end of the show, I kind of asked everybody, could you share one thing that you would share with somebody else to kind of like make their life better that worked? And I talked about how because I didn't really feel like I had a childhood, how I went back to all of those childhood things. Like I had a bucket list for books. I had a bucket list for things that I wanted to try. I had a bucket list for fears and all of these things. But even in the midst of those things, I had a list of the type of people, the type of person that I wanted to be, the type of mother I wanted to be, the type of partner I wanted to be. I had a list with all the characteristics that I desire in an ideal mate. And I honestly believe, like, even with the law of attraction, people think that like when you just say, I want this, it happened. Faith without works is dead. So yeah, you can believe that you want those things, but you first have to believe that you're worthy of getting those things first. So it's like really programming your mind to say, you know what? I want these things. I believe I want these things. And what am I going to do within myself to change the way that I think? That's going to alternate, that's going to lead into the way that I act, right? So that I can attract the things that I'm seeing that I'm deserving of, right? So when I do those things, it's like people just think, oh, it's just the law of attraction, and I'm just trying to, you write down these things, and it's a vision board, and you just take these pictures out of a magazine and you just put it on there, and then just because you tape it on there, you glue it on there, those things supposed to happen, but it don't work like that. So like for me, like I knew I wanted a storefront. I had a time limit, but I ended up getting my storefront months way before it happened. So even with the whole law of attraction, it was like visualizing those things. So I'm like, man, I knew I didn't have the funds right away because I was working on other things. My funds was allocated towards something else. So I just started going to other storefronts, just visiting storefronts, knowing I didn't have all the funds to do everything I want, but me like putting myself in that space to say like, okay, well, this is what I want. I don't know when I'm going to get it, but when I put myself in that space, what it did is it gave me a different level of motivation. So I was able to visualize myself in that space to begin to program myself that I was deserving of what it is that I truly wanted and I desired out of life. So a lot of times when it comes to, even when we think about the things, like I'm thinking about the whole failure, and I talk about it, like I try to be completely transparent and like honest with everything that I'm doing, even if it's publicly, because for me, I just feel like there's no shame in my game. My failure is what made me who I am. My first year, I rented out a spot for a whole year, not one client. Not one client.
Wow.
Now, so imagine you paying for a spot for 12 months, that's 12 months worth of rent. I done invested all this money, time, energy, and schooling, license, devices, and stuff like that. What would you call it? Promoting and all of that, nothing. I got nothing. But if I didn't learn from my mistakes, because I looked on online and it said fail is the first attempt in learning. That was my first step. That first 4 year, if I would have just gave up, I would have just had all that money and it just would have been a waste. So instead of me feeling like I wasted my time, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give up. What did I learn from that last mistake? because that's all failure is, learning from the last mistake, and then you elevate something to level 2. And then once you get to level 2, you may not move as fast as you want to move, but you're going to make some more mistakes in life. And then you look back like, okay, well, when I was at level 0, when I was at ground 0 and level 1, this is what happened, and now I'm moving up. So just really just learning from your mistakes. And for me, like, that's how I view failure. And success is just like, you know, when they said sometimes you take a couple of steps back, and then they say you get knocked up, you take 2 steps up, and then you take 3 steps back. That's how I look at success. Like, okay, well, it's different for everybody.
Yeah. I like the way how worthy expectations said, and I'm going to take that with me like forever. He said that failure and success is just results. So you may have not failed, but you probably didn't put that extra $500 into your advertising. You probably put it into Instagram when you should have put it into Facebook, or, you know, you should have, you know, did things a different way, not necessarily meaning that you did it a bad way. You just should have did it a different way because it yielded you a different result that you didn't want. And
Can
then
I add one thing before
cool,
you
let me try it this way. So that works. So it's kind of cool. I do like, you know, how you said that about the results that you get. And you're totally right, Miss Jasmine. Like, I put myself everywhere. I don't care. I'll go in the room. I'll pay that ticket. If I know that I need to be in Dallas because such and such is going to be there, I'm going to pay, and I'm going to be there because I'm going to be in the room with people that are the same as me, you know. And everybody may not understand, and people are like, oh, Stephanie, and then they'll, you know, people are like, oh, I want to hang out with you. I'm like, oh, well, you're going to have to raise up to where I am now, because I'm not down there anymore. I'm sorry, but I'll help you. Like Ray said, I'll help you. But
before you drop off, love, beautifully animated said, you is kind, you is smart, you is beautiful.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing before you leave? To defend your father's, the way he came after you, I think the best way he could have said it to you when he was saying do things a different way was, like actions produce like results. And all he was basically saying is, look at her and what she's doing, and if you do the same thing, you're there. So why go through life trying to make all the mistakes necessary? Because experience is the true teacher in life.
Yeah.
When you experience it, nobody can tell you different. So why make all the mistakes? Why waste years and years and years making mistakes just to get to a level of understanding, when all you have to do is look at somebody who's successful, figure out their mindset, their dedication, their belief, their level of intelligence as far as what they know. And if you do what they do, you can have what they have.
And I truly believe that, like you said, but you know, delivery is everything. So if I'm looking at another 10-year-old and you're like saying that, I'm not taking it as how you just said it. So that's, you know, our parents do the best that they can. And sometimes they may not do it the right way, but they're doing it a way. And that, like, when you get older, then you understand their intentions and things like that, and why you do the things you do. But that did have to happen. And so like now, exactly what you said. Oh, I'm looking at other cultures. I'm like, okay, what they doing? Okay, I'm talking to other people. I'm like, okay, well, how do you do this? Or how do you make this specific thing for your family? Or how do you manage your money over here? Because I don't know that. So I'm asking those questions now, just like you said. So that had to teach me to get to the point where I was like, okay, I can accept who I am now. And seeing success in other people and asking them, communicating is the best way that I'm going to learn by those things. So it just took me a long time to get to this point. And I tell my son that, he's like, I don't know. I said, listen, you can say anything that you want. I said, if you want a blue house on a hill and that's what you want, say that you want it, and they'll start showing up. And so we're driving to school, and I was like, oh, look, Jordan. I said, look, see that? There goes a blue house on the hill right over there. He's like, yeah, you're right. I said, yeah, that's how you have to think. And you just have to just elevate, and just not be a victim, you know, even though it does suck, but you do have to be strong and overcome to, you know, sometimes to get to success.
Hey, I got to get ready myself too, because I got to go to bed and give me something to eat, because I came right in from work and cut the grass, and I had to jump on here so Jasmine, she wouldn't get me. I just want to leave. I want to say to y'all, listen, I look forward to getting with you guys again. If there's anything I can leave with you, is just to let you know that everything that you go through in life is part of your experience. It's part of training that it takes for you to have the experience to get to the next level. Now, it's how you use it. So whatever you go through. So if your parents taught you this way when they could have taught you that way, is because they taught you this way, maybe shows you another way, a better way. And so now you can deal with your son in this way because you know that way didn't work, that way wasn't good. So it was part of your training, part of your experiences. Just like when you go for a job interview, they say, hey, you're there applying for the job of a CFO. So they may say, okay, well, what is your experience in finance? Where did you go to school, or where did you receive your training from? Because everybody wants to know that you have something, in the way of experience and training. And that's what I would leave with you guys. I can't wait for the next panel because I'm gonna be I'm gonna be ready. I'll be prepared. I like a meeting of the minds, and I see that it's a great group, and I can't wait to get back. So I thank you guys, and thanks, Jasmine. I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to come on. Take care, y'all.
Nice meeting you, Drew.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
It's nice meeting you.
Bye, Drew.
Take care. I just want to add a piece.
His name not Drew.
I know.
Hugh. Sorry, Hugh.
Hugh.
Please, if I can add a significant piece.
Yes,
you guys are going to be $2 million broke and 90 years old saying the same thing. If you don't go a layer deeper. You don't have to take my word for it, but how many times have we said these same scenarios to ourselves? All these fancy quotes. I'm not knocking them. What I'm saying is it doesn't work that way. Your brain does not work that way, period. Now, I'm open to researchable debate. I'm telling you, research. Not everyone believes in psychology, and that's fine. I won't win the chakra conversation. I won't win the zodiac conversation. But psychology does not work that way. We will be 90 years old saying the same things to ourselves and then spent $2 million because we are serving the wrong, I'm going to call it master. And I'm not talking about God and all that. I'll just say this and I'll land my plane. This is my struggle. I'm cursed, blessed and cursed with this information. That's what the wife school, since you're still here, I just want to give you an example. You don't need to answer, but how many times have you said, dang it, I made a mistake. Let me pick a different guy, a different way. Let me be smarter. Let me invest in this program. And you're still at the same spot. Not you, we, in our own ways, are at the same spot.
Yeah, that's true.
Did we pick the wrong class? Did we not spend enough? So, yeah, you'll spend another $200 to go to Dallas. And guess what? After the Dallas class, you'll be in the same spot. Think about addiction. Think of how many of you on this panel have promised yourself you will never, ever, ever do X, Y, and Z again, and you still do it. Think about how many times we said we won't, and I'm not trying to be funny, and I don't have time to give all my background, but I'm licensed in Minnesota, duly licensed, certified forensic clinician, do court testimony, I work with SEX offenders, victims, blah, 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 blah.
You literally work with the people who can't be fixed.
That is incorrect. That is incorrect. That is incorrect.
Hold on. Is it
that means you're saying
child ones or the adult ones?
That means we're saying the same thing about ourselves.
No. Is it the child ones or the adult ones? Because my chick, she's got more letters behind her name than
that's
most
great.
doctors.
That's great. And I'm more willing to have.
So, like, if it's the child ones, those ones, there's nothing on paper that works. Works verifiably based on science. Correct. I worked in the field for 6 years.
So the one that starts with the P, correct?
Yeah.
They either have to take the piece of the brain taken out or locked away for life. Boom.
So are you the gamut or are you just those? Because when I said can't be fixed, I was like those ones specifically.
Yeah, got it. I'm the one that either signs off that this person should be in the community.
Yeah.
I'm the one that signs off that says you've learned enough or if you changed enough or it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So addiction of any kind does not work with just pull your bootstraps. That does not work. Again, I'm not knocking what we've said. Let me just go one layer deeper and then I'll land the plane as I was saying. There's 3 parts to all of us, not multiple personalities, but there's 3 parts to all of us. There's a protector, a victim, and a witness in all of us. In some point in life, especially in our childhood, we felt victimized, even in a positive way. If you have 2 parents who work, right now, if you're in a 2-parent home, you guys who have any of you listening, if you have kids and and both parents are working, let me tell you the trauma you are helping your kid have, even though you're trying to feed them and take care of them. So it's a double sword. There's no perfect parenting. So when the kid asks the dad or whatever setup you have at home, Dad, would you stay home and miss work? And dad says no. And their subconscious mind is a schema that says neglect and abandonment. Now, the 5-year-old doesn't know the word and the dad didn't do it on purpose. Mm-hmm. When they double down and say, Mom, will you stay home for 1 hour? Not a whole day, for 1 hour? And she says, oh, baby, I can't. I mean, she says it nice. She doesn't say, get the hell out of here. She says, oh, baby, I can't. And when the son asks, because 5-year-olds ask the darndest things, why do you have to work so much? And she says, because I have to feed you. And when the son says, Mom, I just won't eat. I'd rather get 1 hour with you. I'd rather starve to death if it means I can get 1 more hour with you. When she says, oh, and leave the house, guess what schema got locked in his brain?
Abandonment.
Not good enough. Not good enough. Not good enough. Abandonment and neglect. Yep. I just told my mama I would rather die, and she still left. So now I'm going to grow on this pillar that my own mama wouldn't do it for me. I'm not good enough. Again, they don't know.
I think
I have to work.
Hold on.
I think all of that is circumstantial, though.
Let him land the plane because I got some weigh in on this too.
All right, that's cool. So the brain is then going to, you can't outwit the brain. So the brain is going to grow like a pack of vines around this pillar. And that's what you're going to grow up on. And so you could be 7 years old and won't apply for the baseball team because you feel like you're not good enough. 17 years old, you won't do so-and-so because you don't think you're good enough. 27, 37, 47, 57, we'll be taking classes. We'll be doing one more thing, trying to do better. We'll be trying to pick something different, all because it's rooted and not good enough. Then on top of that, how are we soothing that with these addictions, masturbation? You don't need to raise your hand. I know people out there who got routines.
Wait, hold on. What you mean you don't need to raise your hand?
Handshake.
It's a coping mechanism. People want
put your hands down, Ray.
Yeah, people call it what they want, but they got routines. They can't go to bed without squeezing one out, and they can't go to work in the morning. We see it as they can't go to work in the morning because they have to do that. No, did you know the real reason they do it in the morning is because to set their mind to get ready for the psychological trauma that comes with work. So we have imposter syndrome, going to jobs that we do the jobs, but really we have imposter syndrome. So we didn't even know that the morning dose of coffee, the morning blah, 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 wasn't just to wake up. It's also to impact the dopamine rush and to get our mindset so we can go do this job that we really feel like we're not good enough to have. The men and women that we're choosing, who's choosing them? Because the protector in us, and I promise I'll after this place, the protector that I was talking about, there's 2 people I want to talk about, 2 parts I want to talk about, and I'll leave it. The protector in us is taking off from where the little girl or the little boy left off. If you grew up in the home where you didn't feel heard, the protector in you is going to make sure you are heard. It's going to talk like this. Swear to God. Why y'all not? Hey, man, calm down. I am calm. That's because the protector is serving you. And then the red flags. So if I grew up in a home where I didn't have a father, I want a father figure. So then when I have this potential man, which is worse, which is the 2 evils, that he's a little bit abusive, but he's there. So it takes me 9 million years to get out the relationship, not because I'm stupid, not because I'm dumb, not because I'll be broke. It's because I have someone there. So my pillar is about security, not about smarts. My pillar is about security, not about if I got hit or not. Hell, my dad wasn't even home, but that internal pain is worse than someone socking me in the face. So when I say serving which master, serving which whatever, that protector is going to do whatever it takes so you don't have to experience what that little kid felt in you. Red flags. The protector actually invites red flags. What's a red flag? Narcissistic loves themselves 100 more times. And guess what I am? I feel so broken, so neglected that I turn into this pot of honey so I can attract people. What a match made in heaven. You're narcissistic and make it all about you. I want to make it all about you, so you love me. What a match made in heaven. And then guess what the people outside of you are saying? Why are you with? Have you lost your mind? Ooh, they're going to. But in your protective brain, they want love. And I have so much love to give. I wish my parents were around to know that. And then the last one was the victim. You have to watch out for the victim side of you. Here's my analogy for the victim. If I do a triathlon, run, swim, and bike, clearly you can see I didn't do all that. But if I run, swim, and bike, and then I went through some competitions and I won a couple, now I'm retired. But I go and watch the other people compete. When I did it, I got out the cold lake. It took me about 30 minutes to warm up. Now that I've done it for years and I go watch someone else, when they get out the water and within 30 seconds, when that team comes with that potato blanket, with that aluminum foil jacket and wraps them up and gets them all warm in 30 seconds, the victim in me who was first sharing with you the blood, sweat, and tears of working out hard, the victim in me is looking at you like, you bitch. You have a damn aluminum blanket to warm you up in 30 seconds. So the victim in me actually enjoys watching you break. The little kid in you that was neglected, the victim, when your partner says, you look like you don't never have time for me. Shit, well, welcome to my world. So you ain't the only one who don't get time. Now you have this argument, and then later going back saying, I didn't mean to act that way. It was the victim in you pairing up with them like, yeah, I get the pain, but who are you? Saying, well, I'll leave it at that to say what everyone said is correct when you get on that side of the line. Under there, you're going to continue to reinforce. I'm open to pushback.
Now, you know what? I'm not really gonna give you a lot of pushback, right? Because I'm listening to you. You broke down a 3-part protective victim witness, and I think you and I probably shared a conversation before. I like the fact how you said, like, when we go through things and it's failures and stuff like that in our life, we have to dig deeper, right? So you brought up something about like relationships and you how sometimes a woman can be in a relationship with somebody and she's trying to figure out how she ending up with this same guy over and over and over again, right? So I think when I thought about it, right, at first, the first time I heard that, it was a lot of pushback. But then the more I started like healing, working through my own traumas and trying to become more spiritually aware of who I was as an individual, it made more sense. Because now it was just like I was looking, I took that mirror and I was looking at the woman in the mirror and like, you know what? If I'm having these same issues over and over again, and I haven't had a lot of relationships, and I know Daru, we talked about it. If I ain't had that many relationships, how my relationship expert, and I guess that's the whole failing part, learning from other people's failures, I guess, sort of say. But just me looking at the situations or the men that I chose to entertain, sort of say, and I found myself entertaining the same type of guys. And I started like, you know what, if I desire to have a life mate, right, and I have all of these characteristics that I'm looking into, that I desire for a life mate, it's some things in order for me to attract that very thing in which I desire as a woman, and I do not want to repeat the same cycle of the things that I have been attracting. I had to look at myself, right? And I had to be the change that I wish to see. I had to look, and once I decided to look at myself, I'm like, man, you know what? It wasn't that these other people was the problem. I was the problem, and I had issues like how you say you gotta go dig deeper, right? I started digging deeper into what the root issue was, and then it was just like, damn, I didn't realize like I had all these other factors that played that took effect into my life, like, you know, childhood trauma, stuff with my father, stuff with my mother, things with my family. And that type of stuff can alter the way you view things. It can alter your decisions, and it can alter like like your decision, the choices that you're making, and then you find yourself sometimes when you don't do that root work, repeating the cycle over and over and over again. So I do like the fact that how you broke it down into how you explain what it means when you talk about going deeper, and and broke it down from like the protector, the victim, and witness. Because when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, well, the way I carried myself as a woman, right? I was carrying myself as a protector. I had to protect myself. And then I also protected other people. I thought it was my job and my duty and my responsibility to protect other people, because as a kid, nobody never protected me. So I'm overprotecting. I use the overgiving as a trauma response, right? The whole victim part, I knew because I was a victim. I had different things in my life that happened that made me a victim. And it was just like the witness. I don't really know. I don't understand the breakdown of the witness, but it was just like when I look at
Hold on for a quick second. I just want to show you that example about the protector. So someone is going to advise you. You either need a strong man who can handle you and your attitude, and someone who can adjust and be patient with you, right?
I do.
The protector is going to take that, but then guess what's going to happen? The protector is competing. This strong man is competing with the strong protector. You didn't have that before, so the protector in you already is prepared. You were born to this, and then these people is called betrayal trauma. So the people who are supposed to offer you this protection for whatever reason, from that they of old age, they left us, all the way to they found a new couple. The protector says it's not going to stay. So you get this strong individual, which is what you said you should do, and it's good. He comes in strong, but now your protector is like, how long is this one going to stay? You know, dad didn't even stay. So already that's cooking in the back of your mind. And then the second thing the protector says is, hold on. If you do all of what you're going to do, we are out of business. If the protector is out of business, so that's another whole internal fight that we don't even consider, and therapists don't even tell you about. And I'm not saying I'm above them. I'm saying I do forensic work. So depending the type of therapy you work on, they won't tell you about the part where the protector is actually going to fight against you. And now subconsciously, you are fighting this good, strong individual who had the capacity to deal with you. But then unknowingly, you are putting up these behaviors to where you sabotage the opportunity, and he says deuces.
You know, I think that I think what you're saying is like totally right, doctor. But I say this. I think that that's true at the same time, but I think still all of that stuff is circumstantial. You know what I mean? And I say that it's circumstantial because the one thing about people in whole is one way or another we need each other. You know what I mean? Whether it's the circle you in or the man or woman you dating, right? So when you run into that particular person, when you tell them your story, like I think I'm gonna say a well-grown man mentally, right? They gonna know that stuff. You know what I mean? And I think that in the right situation with them knowing that, see, I wouldn't have looked at it the way that you do, Dr. Akumbe. You know, I would have just perceived it like, okay, cool, she been through a lot, she been on her own, so that's what I'm going to expect from her. You know what I mean? And it'll be like more of me helping her cope with it, providing her with a coping mechanism for it. Whether it's my words, then at certain times playing security, and then or protector, and then at certain times, you know, letting her do my thing. But yeah, man.
May I challenge that? Can I put it to the test?
Yeah, sure.
You said you would, if you met her and you were trying to court or date, that once you heard her story, she shouldn't have to ask. You'll be the type of man that would do. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I think I'm well grown mentally. I will
All right.
keep, perceive, see all of that.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. How old are you?
34.
All right. And this is not a who does that? How old are you? How much do you weigh? So we're not doing that. But all right. So you're 30. You know what I'm talking about? I can't think of his name.
Kevin,
so
that's not Kevin Samuels, is it?
Yes,
Yes.
the late Kevin
Yeah,
Samuels.
Kevin Samuels.
So 34.
Yeah.
And when in the last 6 months have you felt a desire, need, or felt proud about helping someone because you were mature enough to do so? Tell me one story in any part of your life, not just dating, school, work, home, yourself.
Actually, yesterday. So I do motivational speaking on Instagram, and this lady reached out to me. I had no idea who she is. She said, "Hey, Daru, I follow you on Instagram. I got your number off Instagram. Blah blah blah." And I feel as if I had like this sense of like discernment, right? And she was telling me this stuff, what was going on with her life, and I was able to help her out with a situation. Honestly, never seen the lady, didn't even look to investigate her profile. It was just who I am. I was like, you know what? If it was me, I was like, I helped the lady out.
Okay. So just yesterday when you were 34, and why was that significant to you?
Why was it significant to me? It was significant to me because my passion has always been to help people. I feel like I've always been able to make it happen. So I've always wanted to share my abundance.
Got it. So then take us back as far as you can remember, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and tell us about a time you had that passion to help someone else. 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, as far back as you can remember.
Getting in trouble in school for randomly hollering out, "I'm a revolution and I'm gonna start a Black Power war."
Yeah. All right. So you were ready to take on a war. You ready to represent the people?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And what was significant about that?
Seeing the condition of my people, feeling like that I can in some type of way make a difference in their life. Even when I wasn't living in abundance, I remember I had a felony, so I couldn't get the best job. Time I mentioned earlier, I was working at Harold's, right? So I started a non-profit.
You muted yourself, Daru.
Yeah, you started something that muted yourself. Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. I remember like another instance of it. When I mentioned earlier, I worked at Harold's, right? I wasn't in complete abundance then. I was making enough, but I started a nonprofit organization. I called it the IABO. It was an acronym for the International Alliance of Black Organizations. Nice. And then my mother had been the manager at Harold's for a long time. So she knew everybody, like the neighborhood people, the big drug dealers, the politicians that came in, like Brooks them and all of them people came in Harold's. So when I set up my stuff, for my nonprofit organization, because I sponsored a shelter for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And man, these people was donating some like nice stuff. You know what I mean? And it was like, I ain't gonna lie, like I washed, dry, folded, organized it in sizes and everything. And I wanted to take some of that stuff. But I felt like, because it was literally that nice. Like, man, them Kelly jackets, I'm like, that homeless man ain't gonna need that in a shelter.
Right,
like this.
Right. But sacrificed.
I didn't go because I felt like it'll make much more of a difference in their life than whatever would for me, So
Perfect. Does anyone remember what Daru started with? The reason he said he would, I said hypothetically, if you were to date Jasmine, he said yes because he's what type of man?
Mature,
emotionally mature.
Yeah, mentally grown. Yeah.
And around what age did you really get that help and become mature? What age would you say?
Honestly, I would say I was pretty much mature my entire life. And I say that because even growing up as a teenager, right, I always hung around older guys. And then when I didn't feel like I was at a mature point, to be real, I used to Google stuff like, what does it mean to be a mature man? Like stuff like that. Like when I didn't have nobody to impute wisdom into me, I went and looked for it myself.
Okay. What's the first age you remember not having those people to give you that? Did you have a father around?
Yeah, my dad was around.
All right. Did he give you that though?
Nah, I got it more from my Uncle Phil.
All right. So I'm going to land right here. 34-year-old you says you would offer Jasmine this stuff because you're a mature, well-minded man. It has nothing to do with your 34-year-old self. It has nothing to do with all that matureness that you have, because at 5, 6 years old, you were already doing that before you even knew what a romantic relationship was.
Yeah, pretty
Even
much.
before you hit this maturity, you were already doing it. What was the story that you told us? What'd you do when you were a kid? You were starting an evolution.
Revolution, yeah.
Revolution. You were already engaging in behaviors. What age was that? You said grade school. What age was that?
Yeah, I think I was like 3rd grade, 2nd grade,
Third
something.
grade. Let's say second. First grade is 5 years old. Second grade is 6. I'm not a math wizard. 34 minus 6 is what?
28.
Here goes the doctor. I don't know math.
28.
All right, 28. Isn't it a hell of a coincidence that 28 years later, your 6-year-old story, 28 years later, gets still what's important to you? Had nothing to do with your maturity, had nothing to do with Jasmine, had nothing to do with this new development, nothing. You were doing this 28 years previously. As I was saying, the way you were impacted as a child still plays out to you with you today. You've sharpened it, you've gotten better, but you are still doing the same thing that impacted you when you were 6 years old. Nothing to do with the romantic relationship, nothing to do with reaching this level of maturity. And the man knows, and I'm not mocking you. I'm intentionally like giving theatrics. I'm not mocking you. Nothing to do with this. I understand. And if you really know, if you are a man, how many times do we keep telling each other that? If you are a man's really going to know what to do. Sir, you've been that man. You've been that man since 6 years old. When if you listen to how many times did he say, all my life I've been like that? As far back as I can remember, at 19, I was that way. When I was at Harold's, I was that way. All your life, sir, you've been on the roll of wanting to know more, wanting to do better. Because of one little nanosecond over here, you've made it a life mission. So I agree with you, but I also say the root of what you do and why you do it. Boom.
That was actually really well. I like that. So, me being the contrarian that I am, like I'm not after working in mental health, like I worked in mental health to kind of sort through my stuff, and I understand that in a first world country, some people need those resources. But I'm a results driven person. I know we didn't get to where we are today by people that would be societally in the playpen that we've made now, able to navigate in a sense where we wouldn't look at them and be like, they're crazy. We have the liberty of having a pond between us and anyone who would come to take what we have, because realistically, compared to the rest of the world, we are one of the weakest nations. We just have a lot of guns. But mentally, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to any of the metrics that matter as far as keeping a civilization stable and safe, we are horribly failing at that. And part of it is like the when I was thinking about what doctor said about, you can trace this back to when you were a child, and I thought about it and I was like, you know what? He's 100% right. I was like, I could definitely see that I've been exactly the way that I am for a long time, but I got put through a school system that raises young boys as defective girls. So they shave those edges off to try to get the square peg into the round hole. And luckily for me, I'm obstinate enough, which actually the appropriate diagnosis is oppositional defiant, to where I refused to let it take. Like I was the kid who would just my mom refused to put me on the ADHD meds that they wanted to put me on in school. She was like, no, you catching these hands until you do your homework and you're going to get a C. That's what you're going to do. Fortunately, And then on top of that, me personally, I was the type of person who would just catch the hands and get in trouble. Like, I'd be like, I'm doing this. I know I'm getting in trouble. I've weighed the options. I'll catch the hands. Like, that's the decision that I'm going to make. Now, fast forward in life, they're like, so actually, I'm not even going to say that I can discredit that system, because unfortunately, the amount of weak people that we have here that are going through issues there, and there are people that certainly definitely need those systems. I think most of them have seen active duty combat, either here or abroad. I consider active duty, if you in the hood, you've seen active duty combat, like, you probably need to talk to somebody. But like, there's just like an echelon of people, and I think it's the people who literally made the stuff, like, who went, hey, that land over there, we're going to take it, we're going to make something out of it. I'm going to do what's necessary to get it. Mm-hmm. Like, those people, I don't know that the mental health system works for them, because I don't think it would work for me. And like, for me personally, what I did was, when I realized that I had some stuff that I did need to sort out, I switched careers. I was like, I'm going to go work in a space where I can just learn about this stuff, and I can kind of piece it together. Cause like, I was like, I'm not going to be able to go sit with somebody. Like, I couldn't sit with my mom. Like, I couldn't sit with, nobody's been able to tell me anything my entire existence so far. Like, I've just fortunately survived. Right. And then to a point to where you can make those shifts. And like, when I say that I reprogram myself, like, I do, like, I'm up at, like, I mean, I'm going to go I guess I took a nap before this, but after this, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to be up at 4:30. I'm going to get a workout in, much like Jasmine does, while listening to motivational stuff where I'm seeding that programming for the day before I walk out of my house. Like, I'm that on it.
Right.
When I'm working, I'm constantly feeding myself information. Like, I can't read fiction books to save my life. Part of the way my brain works. But information, sponge. Like, I can just throw it in there, and I'm like, cool, that'll just go in the blender. When I need it, it'll come back out. And it's like, when I look at how mental health is marketed, and we like push it at everyone, I'm like, there are some people out there where to put it bluntly, the way that you're fucked up has utility.
Yes. Well, yes. Like, that's the beauty in it. And that's the beauty in it. Because if you think about it, when you said, even when you were a little kid, you weren't accepting the bullshit. Right? And to this day, you still don't accept just bullshit. In fact, you feed your mind. You feed your soul. And my only point is, because I say, yes, learning, reading a book every day, doing all that is correct. Everything we said, I'm totally jiving with. But if we don't recognize what's the root of that, so the root for you, even as a young man, as a little boy, you knew, and I took the hands. But now that I'm old enough, I can kind of do for myself. I don't need to take hands. And I stay sharp in the mind, which you're right. Those kind of wicked things actually sharpen us and help us to be better. So I think you're spot on. Like, you've always been that way, and you continue to do better by it.
Well, and I never thought about it until you broke it down for Daru, and I was like, wait a second. Okay, so that, I was like, that he is spot on. I was like, he has a point. I was like, looking back, I'm like, okay, yeah, I have been doing this for a while.
Can I say one more thing about that? I do like the breakdown you use, and I'm gonna bring that up to this new dynamic that I feel like I've walked into. I said to myself for a long time, I've always been the man I wanted to be, but I just had to find him within myself. I felt like I've always heard him calling, so not schizophrenia, but I felt like I had 3 different personalities at one time. It was like Sean, which is my middle name, Jeezy, and then it was Daru, the prospective gentleman, the man I always wanted to be. So it was like Sean was just hella disrespectful. Fuck you, fuck your mama, fuck everybody. And then it was like the portion of me I feel like was Jeezy was like, man, look, I could sell water to a well, goddammit, and I did it. But it was like the rule was always in the back of my mind when I made the decision to do, I'm gonna say, outlandish or radical stuff. Like, like it was always I'm gonna call it the high narrative voice within me. And like recently, I've been like working on like trying to like verbalize or like write down this theory or what, like this conclusion I came to more recently. And I said what it was like, what always shaded me from being able to see who I truly am and like figure out like who I am, I'm gonna say, was like I feel like my mind, right? Recently I came to this conclusion. I feel as if I'm a completely individual entity compared to my mind. I came to this conclusion like my mind is just a storage processor for the information that I've learned over years. I feel like we born with an innate setting, with an innate set of settings in our brain and an innate amount of information, like we say, from our ancestors, right? See, that's all rooted in our DNA. So when this brain is formed, like them settings, that knowledge is already up in there. And like I like the phrase that you use, Reckless. You said, "Oh, information is just gonna come back when I need it," right? So to me, it's just like AI. AI don't actually think for itself. It's just a whole compound set of information that just randomly bring forth information, but it worked the same way with our mind, right? So excuse the verbiage, but when I like came to that conclusion, like, wait, because a lot of times I felt like, man, that made my thoughts, like I'm not provoking them thoughts, but it's just coming. So when I came to the conclusion, like, wait, I'm the awareness. And this shit just a storage of the information. So when the thoughts start coming, excuse my language, because I was like really aggressive with what I felt like I had to train my brain, right? Like reprogram my thoughts. I was like really aggressive with it. So when I came to the conclusion, like, wait, that ain't me. Like, that's the brain and I'm awareness. Like, that shit just a storage function. Like, it changed the whole dynamic of my life, right? So I started feeling like disattached from my body. For a long time, I had an issue with like disciplining myself, right? And when I started coming to that conclusion, I'm like, wait, so the brain is just a voice for the shit that the body wants? You know what I mean? Like literally. So the brain is just a voice for the body, and I am the awareness. So the brain run the body, and I run the brain outside of itself. And immediately when I came to that conclusion, I was able to start fasting. I've been raw vegan now for 2 weeks, and it's something I've been wanting to do since I was like 15. It just been in me like, yo, I want to be raw vegan for whatever reason. I didn't even know. It just been calling me. So like the last 2 weeks, I really came to that conclusion, and excuse the language, it'd be like, I kind of tell my brain like, hey, bro, shut up. Like, I didn't ask you to bring forth no thoughts. I know you got all that information in there, but shut up, don't say nothing. And like, literally, I know it may sound crazy, but when I tell you, like, since I started seeing my life like that, I literally then mastered self-discipline, like all the way down to my eating habits. I used to want to fast 2 times a week and used to struggle because I always thought that voice like, oh, I'm hungry was me. So now I'm like, damn, I don't want to be hungry. I'm arguing with this voice, but the whole time, like, I'm a whole separate, different awareness. Like that voice come on, I'll be like, bro, shut up. Your ass just a habit. I said I'm fasting today. And when I literally take, like, my body started feeling different, when I started more so commanding that factor and realizing it ain't me, but, you know, like just a whole separate voice of compilation of information and randomly speak from triggers of things that I'm aware of. Like I can hear a sound, right? Or a specific piece of a music. And then that piece of music is stored in my information box from a specific time or a place, like prom. When I bought my first car, like how I say, you hear the sound or whatever, then the program started running. And like, I really realized like, damn, I'm completely different from that. And man, like it just changed the whole paradigm and the dynamic of my life. And it, like I said, it really triggered me, like, to get back to that, Reckless, when you said that, like, oh, it's just a piece of information. I'm going to call it back forth whenever I need it. And I feel like that was powerful to me when you said it, because now I'm restructuring and retaming my brain to only do that for information that I want and information that I need. And now I found myself like, I don't know, like trying to organize my brain in a different level, you know what I mean? In a different way to call for more and better intellect. So yeah, man, I thought that was
beautiful.
Really,
and that's when I say skills like what were the expectations we're talking about. Those are the skills that now help you learn how to package that, categorize it, and utilize it and sharpen it. So like, man, that's beautiful.
Could I ask you a question, Daru?
Sure.
It's we'll do this this little exercise. But okay, so the question is this: who are you?
I am Daru Smith.
No, that is your name. Who are you?
Oh, I am awareness. Daru is the name of this body.
That
I
is the
am.
core essence. That is
Yeah,
the core
I am
essence.
awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
We are
aware.
spiritual
Beautiful.
beings living
Beautiful.
in a physical body, and we have been gifted with an intellect. And it's the way you use your intellect that's going to determine your results in life. But
And
the most powerful part of us is our spiritual self. The body's just a
Absolutely.
vessel, like a car. You get in your car to travel. Our body is just the vessel that we go through life in.
I said everything that they make is based off man, car and driver. Literally. Look, this body is just a car. We literally inside of this driving this thing right here. And like literally, when I start noticing that, like honestly, y'all, everything has increased for me. Even like my push-ups. For a while, I was struggling to get back to 20. And when I realized like I'm not this body and I feel like I can stand over this body, hey, your ass doing 30. You doing 30 push-ups. Don't get up till you doing I don't care. And like literally, like my body literally, I feel like start obeying every single command. That thought try to come like, oh, I'm hungry, I gotta fast today. Bro, you know you're not eating nothing, and I'm not finna argue with you. Literally, tell brain, shut up. And I don't hear it again. Like I fasted all day yesterday. Came into today. I'm supposed to eat today because I'm gonna fast again tomorrow. But it was just like I started literally learning how to turn it off. And then with me learning how to turn it off, now I can focus way better on things that I'm trying to accomplish instead of that. And I'm gonna say this. One of you guys was mentioning like the addictions. That addiction stuff also just a storage function in the mind. Mm-hmm. And when the mind called it forth, it's like the body want to do it. And it's like, man, it just really changed for me when I realized like I'm a different entity from my mind. Like that mind is a different entity compared to who I am, me being the awareness. So yeah.
Doctor, can we call you Mr. Dwayne Wade?
Why him? What's he say that I?
No, you look like him. Is all I'm saying. We're Wade from now.
Oh yeah. That's funny. Yeah. well, thank
all
you.
Right.
I guess.
Okay, I was gonna say a joke, but I'm gonna keep it to myself. I'm gonna tell you later, Mike. We did go past our time, and I just wanted I first and foremost, I'm gonna say I appreciate you guys for getting on the show, sharing your perspective. It was very much needed. As we close, this sounds like I'm echoing. As we close out at the end of every show, we always talk about. Of course, the show is typically on trauma and healing, and at the end of the show, what we do is give tips on things that help us become a better person, things that help us overcome. Mike, you making too much noise. Let me put you on mute. I just learned how to mute people. So we talk about we give tips on things that help us cope, things that help us overcome trauma, things that help us become a better version of ourselves, right? So my finishing statement is I would say nothing, because the topic is about failure not being an option, but for me, how I look at failure, I feel like nothing beats a failure but a try, because I'd rather fail at trying than not try at all, right? So I was listening to Daru. I'm gonna say two things. I was listening to Daru, and he was talking about him struggling to do push-ups, right? And that made me think about the time while I was working inside the prison. And I had this one coworker. I wouldn't call him fat, but he was a little meaty, and he wasn't a bad looking guy. He just had a hard time getting women. And I think it's because the way he presented himself, he just looked sloppy. You get what I'm saying? And he was making too much money to be looking that way. And whenever we talk, whenever we spoke at work, he will always say things about like, put me on some of your friends and stuff like that. And me personally, I'm like, man, don't no woman want to be with a man that's not even taking care of his appearance, right? And he will always speak on the fact that he wanted to work out. and he couldn't. And he just couldn't do the thing. So I used to tell him, like, you know what, like, what helps me work out? Because he would say, like, what helped you stay in shape after working all of those hours? And I'm like, okay, well, when I had those periods, sometimes when you go such a long time without working out and then you start back, it could be a struggle. So I would tell him, just do increments of one. And this real story, I would tell him do increments of one. So today I will probably do like 1 push-up, 1 squat. That's nothing. Tomorrow, 2 push-ups, 2 squats, and then so on until I'm able to do more, right? And that made me think about this YouTube video. I actually bought this book. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's called The Power of One More by Ed Milet. I had ran across this YouTube video one morning, and it was like a motivational thing. And this guy, he was telling a story about his father, how his father was overcoming something. I think it was alcoholism. He was overcoming that, and his father would always promise that he would stop. And his father ended up telling him, like, you know, I got this person. Pretty much, to make a long story short, he was the person that his father looked at for motivation, right? His own child, which is Ed Miley. And he would talk about, like, you know, just one more. So no matter what we're doing, sometimes we give up and we feel like that it's just the end of the road. Just give yourself one more chance the next day. So, like, if we're going to say, if your goal is to make $100, just say, okay, well, I'm not going to stop until I make $101. If you feel like, okay, I can't do 10 push-ups. Okay, do 10 push-ups plus 1. So whatever you do, just add the extra 1 into it. So just really just pushing your, and that made me think about, like, man, like, whenever I always talk about me doing the shrooms on the show, right? Whenever I have those experiences, and it always seemed like the universe is speaking to me in such a way that I'm able to take my experience and share it with other people. But it just made me think about the whole failure thing. And a lot of times we think when we're healing through something, when things don't go our way, we're failing. And what failure really does is build characteristics. It builds experience. And we all know experience is the best teacher with anything. So my closing statement is just whatever you do, never give up. Always try at least one more time. And I mean, it's always somebody depending on you, and nothing beats a failure but a try. I'm gonna have Doc. We're gonna go around from like the Doc word, the experience, and then out this way, I'm gonna let you fine gentlemen close us out because I really appreciate y'all perspective tonight. I really do. Go ahead, Doc.
Mm-hmm. First of all, thanks for allowing me space on the panel, and for your listeners, thank you. I appreciate and value and honor everyone's voice and this opportunity. I don't believe any one person's way is right. Like, we all bring a perspective that's going to help somebody. We all bring, I mean, you didn't bring a panel of fools together. So I believe we all have worthiness in what our methods are. If I'm the listener, hopefully you find something that hit and resonates with you, because if you're serious about failure not being an option, then take in all the methods. I mean, isn't that what we were just talking about? Reading, writing, healing, therapy, exercise. I mean, try every method until you feel that it works. And even when I say, oh, you're going to spend $1 million and be doing this at 90, well, let's go back to what Jasmine Says It All just said. Try something is better than doing nothing, right? It's better than a failure altogether. Just from my perspective, just know where that's coming from. What is that drive? Where's that drive rooted in? So then you don't have to worry about later having resentments. I did all this for my partner. I did all this for my mom. I did all this because someone told me I was going to be a failure and I went into overdrive. I did all this for my kids and realized I never lived my own life. So just be mindful of some of the pitfalls as you're finding a way. And then I always ask, once you get to that spot, please, please, please give back. Please find a way to give back. There's always another soul, another mind out there, another headspace, something that we can help influence, help educate, help motivate, help support, help them feel seen, help them feel heard, help them feel valued, acknowledged, and validated. that's so important for us. And I like what we were talking about earlier, the fact that our nation right now is so sensitive. Our nation is running on all of these feelings and emotions and this herd mentality. I don't feel heard, and I think I need to change my entire everything in order to be heard. I needed to do this total thing over here to be. Please find within yourself some level of internal happiness. It doesn't always have to be about this external, about someone else, about something else. What is your internal? And happiness is different for everybody. So determine what happiness is for you before you even get into anything about what was sensitive and blah, 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 blah. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you again for allowing me to share in this space. Remember, I don't think my one way is right. And please know, for those who don't know me or have not heard me speak before, I'm a comedian and an actor on top of the psychologist. So sometimes when I'm doing my theatrics, and usually I would tell people, this is not to you personally, this is my theatrics, because some people are visual learners or audio learners, and they can feel it more than they can just read it. So that's more of where those shenanigans are from. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doc. Worthy Expectations, aka Mike. Hold on, I gotta unmute you. Hold on, let me unmute you. All right, go ahead. I unmuted you.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I've watched your podcast before, yours and whoever you were a guest on, and it looked fun and looked very informative. This is my first time doing this. I want to say fear is a debilitator to action. So therefore, fear of success can also be a debilitator. Some people, if you really ask them, what do you need to do? They already know what they need to do to get over the hurdle, to do something. But you're going to miss every shot that you never take. So if your fear of failure is in charge, you're not going to try something different. You're not going to do something different. You're not going to get out of your comfort zone. You're not going to put yourself in a different environment with other people who have what? Maybe a greater awareness than you do. So when I said before, like actions produce like results, simply find a role model in your life. And if you like a person for who they are and the way they act, you can claim those characteristics. I'm not the person today that I was 30 years ago. I consciously changed myself, as Ray has done. But you have to understand how that comes about, because everything is rooted, as the doctor says, in your subconscious mind. And you have to be able to work that or have somebody help you work through that. But change, we all need to change, because in this world that we live in, nothing stays the same. The only thing there really is in this world is change. So that's why we have to change along with it. The world is different today than it was 5 years ago. As the doctor said, it's a sensitive world out there. We're just playing our role in it. You know, we're trying to get what we want out of it. So when I said before, decide on what you want, I think that's the biggest decision. This is your biggest choice that you have to do, is decide what you really, really want in this world. And when you do that, all things begin to happen in your favor. As Jasmine said, the law of attraction, you begin to attract things into your life just by making a decision, a committed decision. This is what I want, and I am not going to stop until I get it. Thank you, everybody.
Daru?
I think I'll begin my closeoff speech the way the previous two did. I'd like to thank you for inviting me on. You know, I like to give a shout out to Dr. Nakumbe. Like, you gave a dope insight with the breakdown. Definitely appreciate that. And on my own behalf, I just like to say this, you know, you're going to always grow through what you go through. You know, you'll never experience anything like failure. I think that failure is the only route to success, to be honest. You know, it's the complete foundation of it. You know, a lot of people don't like Kanye, but one of the things the man said, he said, you don't learn nothing from being successful. He said, but you take in all the notes when you fail. And I was like, what? And then I had to really think about it, like, damn, he actually right. You know what I mean? Like, don't nobody really got nothing to say when you succeed, but you draw in everything when you do fail, you know. To be honest, I got to the point where, like, one of the things I asked my son that when I pick him up from school is like, what you struggle with today? You know what I mean? What you have a hard time with. He was like, I thought you was gonna ask me did I have a great day today? No, I want to know, like, what did you have a difficult time doing? You know what I mean? Let's talk about that. Let's focus on that. You know, let's master that. And I find him answering that question much more thoroughly compared to when I asked him, like, oh, what you do in school? Oh, nothing. Everything was good. What? But see, he'd tell me about, like, well, this happened and that happened, and I tried to figure it out like this, and I tried to figure it out like that. And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna ever ask him, like, just flat out again, like, how was your day at school? You know what I mean? Like, me asking him what did he struggle with, or what did he feel like he did a bad job at school, literally extends the conversation to when we get home and he changes uniform clothes and all of this other stuff. And by the time it come about, like, the next day he go to school, now he's telling me, like, oh, well, this happened, and then that's the same thing that happened yesterday, so I went about it like this. So, you know, I always say again, you know, failure is what's gonna bring you to success. And again, like, thank you for inviting me on the show.
No problem. Anytime. Open door policies. Reckless Ray, go ahead and close us out, sir.
Okay, I hope you're ready. I'm gonna go ahead and say shout out to the chat. You guys made this awesome. I was tapped in there. Shout out to the panel. There was a lot of knowledge on here. You might not let me close out another show after this, but I'm gonna cook for a second. The first thing that I would say is discipline is the most important skill to cultivate. Motivation will not carry you when you don't feel like it. Motivation will not carry you when things are not going your way. Discipline does. I wake up most days and have to go in and I don't feel well. I don't feel like doing my morning workout. I don't feel like going in and dealing with people. I don't feel like going in and hearing the complaints of everyone that's on the team of the company that I'm a part of. I don't like going in and having to motivate them. But I do it anyways because of discipline. How you do anything is how you do everything. I do not believe in switching speeds. It perplexes me that we have men that can go to the gym and literally terraform their bodies into something that is as close to godlike as you could possibly get. And then they go home and are broke. That does not make sense to me. It is an affront to your capabilities. It is an affront to your ancestors. And were the expectations asked Daru earlier, who is he? And I was like, I liked his answer, but my answer is a little bit different. I am the embodiment of 5,000 years of people who fought, struggled, and won to be here. I do not function on a metric of happiness. I do not think about happiness because I've got 5,000 years of people who went through varying degrees of war, disease, slavery, oppression. And this isn't a victim Olympics oppression. They made the decision to reproduce for me to be here. I have no right, not a single right, to talk at this juncture in 2023 when I can do whatever I want, when I can go eat wherever I want, where I get to go see homeless people that are obese in a society that, generally speaking, if you know how to navigate a city, is safe. I know where not to go. And talk about my happiness. I owe those people to do the best that I can to move forward, to make sure that their decision to procreate was justified. You think about it. People went through scurvy and then went, I'm going to have a kid. And then hopefully that kid does something. If you think about your ancestors from 500 years ago, like we're going back before slavery. If they looked at you now, the thought process of them at that point, you know, if they should have gone, hey man, we probably should just go ahead and lay down and call this. Like, I don't know if it's going to be worth it if like that's what we're producing. That's what you have to deal with every day. And for everyone that's listening, once you know this, and now you do because you just listened to me say it, you can't unknow it. You have a duty. You might not think you owe your parents. You might not think you owe this country anything. And I'm fine with that. You owe every piece of material that went into forging you. You owe them because they were winners. And they won in spite of terrible circumstances for you to be here. All the people who are not winners, all the unlucky people, they all off themselves yesterday. They're not here. The losers are not here. You are. So if you are not winning, that is a decision that you have made and that you've made every day up to hearing this audio or watching this video. Now you have a choice. You can knowingly continue to lose, or you can make the decisions necessary to do what you owe 5,000 years of people who did what they wanted to do without air conditioning, without the internet, without the police, without anyone but themselves. And what's going on with this country right now is going to require you to tap into those genes, not the ones from 20 years ago, because those aren't working for us now. But we are moving in a direction to where you're going to need some of those older genes. You need to unlock that because the data is in you. We are replicates. The data's there. You're going to have to go back, way back. If you haven't done your 23andMe or your Ancestry, I recommend doing it. You might find out that there is some greatness in your bloodline, which might explain some of the stuff that you're doing. But we're going to have to go back past where they tell us our history starts in order to fix this, because things are not getting easier. They are getting harder. And not in the sense of, oh, it's not safe outside, because we're not there yet. But in your mind and what you are exposed to on a daily basis and the way that they're trying to move you, you're going to have to go back to those unruly men who were not willing to accept the circumstances that they had and put their foot down and say, this isn't what we're doing. This is the line. We are not going past this. Matter of fact, we're going this way. We don't even want to be a part of a society that's built like this. And those are the decisions we're getting ready to have to make. And if all you're worried about is your happiness, you are not going to make appropriate decisions for the whole, because a bunch of stuff that will make some of us happy is completely deplorable to everyone else. And we have chosen to group ourselves into societies. So it's not necessarily about you. It's about the whole. It's not about you. It's about your family. You are the leader of this legacy as a living individual right now. And so you need to start thinking as if, because it's not even thinking as if, it is as if you're just not making good decisions right now. And I'm gonna leave it right there. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I don't even think I can have another show after the way you just ended this show, Reckless Ray.
You can't make me last.
Well, for the listeners, I want to tell you guys, thank you so much for joining us in another episode of Jasmine Says It All. And look, y'all know on this show, we try to be completely transparent. We're open and honest with all our experience and the things that we can teach you guys and share with everybody. So thank you guys for just tuning in and allowing us to share ourselves with you so you can learn from our experience, because as we were just talking, failure and experience is the best teacher. So we'll see you on the next episode of Jasmine Says It All.